It's the Mixed Martial Arts Hour with
The Mixed Martial Arts Hour back in your life on this Monday, August 10th, 2015. Hello again, everyone. I'm Ariel Helwani inside our New York City studio. 15 events in 14 weeks. 15 events in 14 weeks, my friends. That is the stretch that the UFC has just completed. Just completed 15 events in 14 weeks. Saturday night, they were in Nashville, Tennessee. Solid card. Highlighted, of course, by Glover Teixeira defeating Ovin St. Preux. Nice comeback win for him. Back on track. Former light heavyweight contender. The man who took John Jones the distance. That was the big selling point. And thus concluded 15 events in 14 weeks. We get a day off, a week off this coming weekend. And then the UFC is back the following weekend on a Sunday in Saskatoon. Beautiful Rough Rider country. Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. And if you look at the rest of the schedule, the next 4.5 months or so, leading up to 2016, it's a much quieter schedule. It's less intense. And who are we to say that this is the wrong way to go about things? You know, I think the UFC has finally started to figure out how to book their shows. Because what I mean by that is the summer is so quiet. I think UFC 190 and Ronda Mania benefited from the fact that there wasn't a lot going on that weekend in sports. July, August, a very quiet time in the world of sports. Of course, you have my Toronto Blue Jays kicking everyone's ass and really stealing all the headlines. But other than that, there's not much going on. So I think it's smart to book July, August as heavy as possible. And then come football season, September, October, November, trickle off a little bit. And again, the media loves to complain about these things, but you know, who are we to say that it's too much when 190, by all accounts, was a huge success. 189 was a success. Fox seems to be happy with their ratings, in particular the 190 prelim ratings, post-fight show, pre-fight show, all very good. So a nice little stretch for the UFC coming to an end. Of course, we'll talk about Saturday night in Nashville. We have so much to discuss on this week's show, a super stack show. At first, I thought it was going to be somewhat of a quiet show, and then slowly but surely, we stacked this bad boy up big time. And I want to make mention at the top that, as you probably have noticed, we are streaming live on YouTube. Finally, the MMA gods have answered our prayers. Finally, after months and months of working on this, and I have to give big props to the guys in the studio here who worked very hard. I don't know anything about this stuff. I just book the show and show up and talk about it all, and of course ask questions. But there are a lot of smart people who work on this show, and I have to give them props for finally getting this done. And I'm not one. I've never been one to say, "Oh, subscribe, give us a like," all that. I don't do that stuff. I don't do it for iTunes. I don't do it for our YouTube channel. But it is important to subscribe now more than ever to our YouTube channel, because I believe there's like some sort of device that tells you when the show is live. Plus the MMA Beat, plus Luke's shows. It helps remind you when things are coming up. That's the cool part about YouTube, among many other things. Our weigh-in clip, our Ronda Rousey Bethe Correia weigh-in clip, has over 7 million views, 7.5 approximately million views on that clip alone. It's unbelievable what's happening over there on YouTube. Who knew? People went to YouTube. So I'm so happy to have our show streaming live on YouTube. I hope you are all enjoying that experience, and hopefully now no more complaints. I heard from people last week saying they were watching it on Xbox, on PlayStation. The possibilities, the outlets are endless when you're on YouTube, so I'm very excited about that. Thank you to everyone who made that happen. All right, what are we talking about, and who are we talking to on today's show? Wow, we are stacked. 3:45, we're going to talk to boxer Amir Khan. Amir Khan, the former two-time world champion, is getting into the world of MMA. We'll explain why and how when he joins our show at 3:45. How about that? Amir Khan. And I'm not talking about Makwan Amir Khani. I'm talking about the boxer Amir Khan. Very exciting. 3:25, we're going to talk to Mike Brown, the former WEC featherweight champion, is stopping by. That man is on a roll as far as MMA coaching is concerned. He is on fire. Coach over at ATT. Looking very good as of late. I'm a big fan of Mike Brown, so I'm happy to have him on. 305, we're going to talk to Luke Barnatt. He is going to come on the show to break some news about where he is headed to next. He has signed with a new promotion. Remember, the former UFC fighter was released. He was a member of Tough that season, Chael Sonnen and John Jones. What number was that? I don't remember. Released recently. I thought a little prematurely. Anyhow, he has rebounded. He's back. And he's going to break that news at 305. 245, we're going to talk to Diego Sanchez. It was announced last week that the dream, the nightmare, Diego, he's moving down to 145. Long rumored, it's going to happen November 21st in Monterrey, Mexico. He's fighting Ricardo Lamas, a tough fight in his featherweight debut. So Diego will stop by at 245. 225, we're going to talk to Rory MacDonald in his first interview since UFC 189, the instant classic that was his fight against Robbie Lawler. Rory MacDonald, the Red King, stopping by at 225. Cannot wait for that. Tyron Woodley is going to stop by at 205. He got his wish. He's getting Johnny Hendricks at UFC 192. That was announced last week. And it's a big week for him. Why? Because he's in the film Straight Out of Compton. Straight Out of Compton about NWA. Have you seen those memes everywhere? Straight Out of Compton. He's in it. A crazy name, Ice Cube. Tyron Woodley's in that movie. Comes out this week. George Lockhart's going to stop by at 145. He is Chris Cyborg's nutritionist. You know, everyone can wax poetic about her weight situation. Only one man truly knows if she can make 135. It's George Lockhart. He's going to be joining us at 145. Tim Kennedy's going to stop by at 125, talk about where he's been, what he's been up to last few months. And in a matter of moments, we're going to be joined by our own Dave Meltzer to talk about the news of the week. Also, around 4 o'clock, we'll answer your questions and comments. So hit us up using the hashtag #TheMMAHour or leave a question or a comment in the comments section below. All right, all that out of the way. Let's get to the show. Let's go to the Skype machine. Welcome in our first guest of the day. Our very own Dave Meltzer is here with us. Dave, how are you?
I'm doing great, Ariel. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for the time. So this past weekend, as I said, the UFC just completed a stretch of 15 events in 14 weeks. Unbelievable, right? 15 events in 14 weeks, and we get 1 week off.
Yeah, crazy. I mean, I was looking at the schedule in September, and I'm going like, what am I going to do every Saturday? I mean, I've got this thing where it's like Saturday, you're just here, and that's just what you do all day.
I'm so envious of you West Coasters, though, because at least for you, it ends at around like 10:30 p.m. For us, the 1:30 p.m. Finish time is tough, especially when you're a father of 2 young boys. It's a little tough. I'm not going to lie.
Well, look, I mean, like, look, our job is what our job is. I
Yeah.
mean, it's like for me, it doesn't end so early either.
That's
between
true.
the press conference and then, trying to figure out what's happening after the show. So it's an all night thing pretty
Yes.
much on Saturday.
I should not be complaining to you. I mean, how you juggle both forms of entertainment, how you do all that on a weekly basis. When's the last time you took a vacation?
I mean, I don't know that I ever can really say vacation. I went places, but I always did work. So I really couldn't answer that question. I mean, it's I would go to Japan, but it's like I was working in Japan. So vacation. I mean, I've had days where you go to the zoo or something, but I mean, as far as like a week or something, I can't remember.
When's the last? You can't even remember. Like the last time you unplugged. I mean, back in the day, there was no internet and all that, but that you fell off the face of the news world, so to speak, for a couple of days. Any recollection at all?
Oh, not a couple days. I mean, when I was in the hospital for 17 days in 1994, and I almost died.
What happened
I was
there?
still on the phone the whole time. Well, I was there, so we'd have to go back. I mean, you'd have to go back to the 80s, early 80s probably.
By the way, why were you in the hospital for 17 days?
I had peritonitis and almost died.
What's that?
In 90, it's basically an intestinal problem. It was horrible situation.
But you were still on the phone. You still didn't take some time off.
I think there was about a day or two where it was pretty much going to be impossible when your fever's like 106 and you're fighting for your life. But I mean, I would say certainly by the second day in, when my fever was down at the 103s, I was on the phone pretty much that whole time.
Did you put out an observer that week?
No, because I was in for. How do you do an observer when you're in the hospital?
I don't know.
But I did do a double issue when I came back.
Okay. Fair enough. Hey, I want to talk to you about Saturday night. To me, the big story was Amanda Nunes because that was the most important fight on the card, and she really asserted herself as a true contender at 135. Tremendous win over Sarah McMahon. Did the UFC make a mistake by committing, at least for now, and we'll get to the Cyborg stuff in a second, to Miesha Tate? Do you think that it would be better for them to present a fresh opponent for Ronda, or do you still think, even though she beat her twice, Tate Rousey 3 is the best fight they can put on if they can't do Cyborg?
I think that right now, since Tate is on the streak and everything like that, and she's so much more high profile, that's the best fight for the end of this year. But I was really happy to see Nunes like come out there because there's always been that complaint, oh, there's nobody new for her to face, and there's really a couple of people. There's Holly Holm and Juliana Pena, and Nunes probably stronger than them because of that win, was much stronger than anyone the other two have had. So there are opponents, and and then there's always Cyborg. So I think that I'd like to see Nunes face, it's really hard to say, but maybe a Sarah Kaufman or somebody to solidify that #1 contender spot. Maybe Kat Zingano. Although both are tough fights.
Yeah.
But with a win over either of them, I think that there's no question that you can't say that she deserves a title fight.
UFC matchmaker Sean Shelby has a real conundrum here because if he books her against a Kaufman or a Zingano, who Ronda already beat rather quickly, well then if they beat her, you're faced with having to deal with the reality of booking a rematch against either Zingano or Kaufman. I believe the Zingano rematch is a lot more sellable than the Kaufman one right now. And then you have the possibility of booking her against Holly Holm, which would make a lot of sense. But then you kill off a contender. So which way do you go?
I would go with Zingano because I think there's a storyline to the fight, in the sense that they had a great first fight. I would think that the second fight, if anything, would be maybe better. If she beats Zingano, it's a clear, as far as path. And if Zingano wins, Zingano and Rousey, there is a story for a second fight, and Ronda has said that she would be willing to give it to her. So I don't know that you're necessarily killing contender that way. With Kaufman, it's a little tougher. So my thought would be Zingano would be the next one, and let Holm and Pena kind of get some wins, and they're not going to be contending for the title until well into 2016, even at best. So that's fine.
Were you surprised by the Ronda mania that just came out of nowhere? Not really out of nowhere, but what's happened over the last 10 or so days, nothing short of amazing. I mean, I was talking about it on the top of our show. The weigh-in clip on our YouTube channel has 7.5 million views. That 2-minute clip of Betchko and Ronda facing off. The media day weigh-in, this is unheard of, has 1.5 million views. Why is this happening now for this fight? Is it because the sports calendar is quiet, July, August? Is there something, the SB? Why do you think it's all happening now for Ronda?
It's so funny that you say that because, like the week before the fight, we were talking about like how it would do on pay-per-view, and everyone's numbers were below what they did, and most people's way below what they did for a bunch of reasons. And it's funny because it's like, I feel like our job is to be in touch with what's going on. And what we missed is that there's a whole world out there. And Ronda hit with women. I mean, like I could tell you, like women in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. I have friends that are older than me who are going like, my wife wanted to watch this show. They don't know anything about MMA, but it's just the ESPY Awards had a lot to do with it. The dissing of Floyd Mayweather probably more than the awards actually.
Yeah.
But the book helped. It was a combination of things. I'll tell you another one, and this one was with my son because I talked to him and his friends. They had a party on Thursday night, and I was just going to. And this is 13-year-old boys, and I'm going like, do you know Conor McGregor? Do you know Ronda Rousey? And some of them knew Conor, and some of them didn't. Everyone knew Ronda, and it was just like, well, where do you know her from? And it was from Furious 7.
Oh,
so. So it was like, because everyone saw that movie. That was one of the biggest grossing movies of all time. And the fight scene, it got over with kids. I mean, she has an audience that's way beyond, a Chuck Liddell, Conor McGregor, even a Brock Lesnar for that matter, when it comes to people outside of the MMA world. And that's where I think that all this stuff that you're talking about, it's all come from people kind of discovering her. She's the hot thing in society, especially with women. And I was stunned. I didn't notice it really or feel it until the day of the fight. The day of the fight, I really sensed it's like this pay-per-view is going to do way better than we expected. And then, the early indications are it did.
What are those early indications?
I mean, I don't want to say anything because pay-per-view numbers are so weird, and
Okay.
I to this day I don't really understand why we don't have a number like on Tuesday or Wednesday,
Yeah.
and we really don't have a clear number for like 3 months, but it looks like it's going to be the biggest one this year.
Do you think it
So
does
we're
over a million?
talking. It's too early to say that,
Okay.
but I'm thinking 900,000,
Wow.
maybe. I mean, maybe it does a little, maybe it does a little less, maybe it does a little more. I've had people who have suggested to me that it will do considerably more, but who knows? I think 900,000 might be a nice, safe estimate, and like I said, that could be off 20% in either direction.
Sure. Any idea what 189 did officially? I mean, as far as your reporting goes?
I heard right over 8. But again, there's different things. The numbers I'm going to get are U.S. and Canada. There is Australia, there is Europe that does have pay-per-view in some of these other countries. There is internet pay-per-view, which is getting stronger and stronger off the UFC website. So if I have a number, the odds are my number before was pretty darn close to accurate. Right now, my numbers are probably a little lower than accurate just because of these other forms of pay-per-view that are not traditional means or the old traditional means.
You know what's most amazing about those two numbers, if they are, in fact correct, at least close to, those two cards happen less than a month apart,
Unbelievable. 3
right?
weeks.
It's just, yeah, for
3
like
weeks.
3 weeks. That's unbelievable to me. That's the most amazing part of the whole thing.
Well, I think that the number for Conor helped because that if you watch the Conor McGregor show on July 11th, there was ad after ad after ad for Ronda Rousey, and they were great ads.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember watching them, and it's just like they really made her larger than life. And the other one is if you watch the FS1 prelims for UFC 190. It was unbelievable between the TV commercials and the ads for the fight. It's like every 5 minutes they were plugging Ronda Rousey, and you felt watching. This is where I really felt it was watching the prelims, and it was just like this woman is looking like like a bigger star than anything we've ever seen before. And that's when I really sensed that my thoughts on, well, it's in Brazil and it's 3 weeks after a big show. So if it does what the last one did, I would consider that a big success. All of a sudden, it's like it's going to beat what the last one did probably by a lot.
So considering that, do you think A, putting them on the same card in around December or so is the right call? And B, do you think that they can actually be successful by putting this in a football stadium, AT&T Stadium, Cowboy Stadium?
I think it's the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think it'd be successful. I mean, the question is do you go? I mean, Conor McGregor and Aldo probably should do 1 million buys. Ronda Rousey and Miesha Tate should do what this one did, maybe more. I don't know, but I mean, we're talking about two giant successes. But the thing is I like the idea of them on the same show, going to the stadium. Because if you go in there and I think it's just a visual and just a feeling like, UFC felt like it was super hot around 2010.
Mm-hmm.
And then, it's going along, and last year was a terrible year and this year's been a good year and all that. But, it hasn't felt like it's super hot until really the last couple of weeks. Now, all of a sudden, it's like we're feeling like it's super hot. And I think that the idea of if you go and do a show that does 50,000 people and there's that visual and probably break the UFC 100 buy rate record, because the one good thing about Conor McGregor and Ronda Rousey is they draw completely different audiences. So it's not like there's this ceiling. There's no ceiling to Ronda Rousey. There is a ceiling to Conor, but everyone who's interested in Conor is gonna buy that one, and Ronda's gonna add a whole new dimension. Plus, it's the whole thing of you can advertise this as the greatest UFC show of all time, and you'll get that kind of stuff. And I mean, that's the key with Mayweather and Pacquiao. It's like if you look at the number buys. But what happens is it's like the day of the show and people go, there's something really big and we got to see it. And I think that if you have that killer card, you're going to get that type of person, like your friends that they're not MMA fans, but maybe they watch Mayweather and Pacquiao because it was a big cultural event. Maybe they'll watch the World Series or the Super Bowl or the Final Four, but they're not really big basketball fans. And I think that you put that show on there, it becomes for the first time, or maybe the second time with UFC 100, where you really have a UFC event that's much bigger than what UFC is, and that's the kind of thing where you're going to make a lot of new fans, and the key is you're going to create tremendous awareness for the sport. So I think it's the time to do it. Yes.
Do you throw Punk on that card as well to get that audience into the mix?
If he's ready.
Uh-huh.
Again, with Punk, I think the whole thing depends on where he's at. I don't think that there's any reason to rush him, and because rush him and have it be a flop does nobody any good. If he's ready and they have the right opponent, would I put it on that show? Yes, I would put it on that show. I think that's another great thing because, yeah, now you're adding another couple 100,000 pro wrestling fans that will probably buy out of curiosity. Plus, again, it's something Punk can promote a fight, and he can, and there's that curiosity of, well, what's this guy, this pro wrestler who's not a former NCAA champion, what's he going to do? This Walter Mitty story, which I think, I mean, I give him so much credit for doing it, because I can't think of anyone in the world who would risk their reputation and with the kind of money that he could have made doing something else at that age, and doing it because he didn't want that time to pass him by and be 50 years old and go, I always wanted to do UFC, but I just kept doing wrestling. And so I think it's a fascinating story. But yeah, if he's ready, absolutely on that show, yes.
So on Friday on Inside MMA, Tito Ortiz said that the UFC reached out to Cyborg about fighting Ronda Rousey Stadium. Then on Saturday, to Kevin Aioli of Yahoo Sports, Dana White said this isn't true. And then after that, both Tito and Cyborg herself and Cyborg's manager to ESPN said that, yes, it is true. What's your take on all of this? Do you think they actually reached out to her or her team?
Well, I think that there were probably conversations, and I'm not in the conversations. I don't know exactly what happened, but I think somebody probably called, and what they said, I don't know. I mean, look, if I'm UFC, I'm in contact with her manager about doing that fight. Maybe not December 5th, maybe UFC 200 in July, but absolutely, I mean, Dana said it himself. He said that he thinks it's going to do 2.5 million buys. So I don't know about that, but I'll tell you what, when he first said 2 million, it was kind of like, it was like a big joke, but now when he says 2.5 million, I'm not even laughing, because that's going to be a gigantic fight. And I think it's actually better for that fight to wait to UFC 200 than to do it in December. But, again, if you want to do this giant show, I mean, I wouldn't rule it out. But I think we need to see Chris fight one fight at 135 to prove she can make the weight and to prove she can be effective at that weight against somebody, and preferably on a UFC show and not an Invicta show.
Yeah.
Maybe even December 5th, you put her against a Kaufman or somebody like that, also on that card. And then you come out with, if she gets a big win and Ronda gets a big win, and let's just say that there's this giant audience, including a lot of newcomers, they're going to come out there at the end of that night going like, man, there's another fight we can't wait to see, and that just builds it even more. But yeah, I would not do it on December 5th, but I would really like to get Chris, if she can make 135 on that December 5th show. Absolutely.
I couldn't agree more for two other reasons. A, there's no need to rush it, because I think a lot of people are just learning about Ronda now. I think a lot of her new fans don't even know that she fought Misha twice already. So it's all still very fresh and new. Why rush this whole thing? And plus, it is somewhat of a health risk to make someone in 4 months drop down to 135 when she's never even done the test cut, who has, talked about in the past that it's hard for her to make, anything lower than 140. I don't see much of course, I'd love to see it. You and I, who have been following the sport and talking about this fight in particular for 3-4 years now, of course we'd love to see it. Maybe longer. But it doesn't make sense to make it on December 5th. Tate is fine. I used to think, like 2 weeks ago, I thought screw the Tate fight, but now I feel differently, because Ronda is so fresh to so many new fans. There's no need to roll the dice. Could you imagine if Cyborg misses weight and can't even fight? Could you imagine that? Like, she gets so dehydrated she can't fight on December 5th, and now you're left with no Ronda on that card?
Well, that's why I say that I really hope that she can do one fight at that weight to prove that she can make that weight. Because also, once she proves she can do it once, I think that not this mental block, which I think it's been, because obviously she's stalled, with the proviso for a long time that, hey, let's face it, it's been since the end of 2012, since when she first got the offer, if she could get to 135. It's been several years and she hasn't done it yet. It's a weird fight, because obviously I'm a fan of big business, and this is giant business. I can't imagine, correctly promoted, that this won't be the women's fight event of our lifetimes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I actually told Dana White that when the first Rousey fight that night in Columbus, I remember texting him back. We were texting back and forth, and I said, if she, and then again, we're so much bigger now than it was then, or that I ever imagined it. But I said, if that fight were to happen, this would be like the biggest women's combat sports fight of all time, and for for decades maybe. And now it's probably 5 times as big as I imagined it then because Ronda exploded like we never saw. And even though people don't know Cyborg, she's very easy to promote, especially if people see a couple of her fights, and then they promote her really hard. And this is Ronda's ultimate. This is Ronda's ultimate challenge, which nobody believed that Betchko Hay is, and nobody believes Misha Tate is. I think the sky is the limit. It'll be something that, it'll be an event that we will talk about for decades, I believe, no matter what happens in the fight.
Speaking of big business, do you think Fedor's next fight will be in a UFC octagon?
I hope so. I just think it's the right time for all concerned to do that.
December 5th would be tremendous, right? If you're trying to make a big deal.
Yeah, and at this point, I think we should spread some stuff out.
Okay,
but
fine,
no,
fine.
I mean, no. But I mean, obviously, all the stuff that we're talking about isn't going to happen on that show. But would that be that would be a great fight, a great show? I'm not, the thing that I'm trying to figure out is Arlovsky really going to fight Cain Velasquez next?
Well, no, he's fighting Frank Mir on September 5th.
What? I don't mean Arlovsky. I'm sorry. I mean Verdum.
Oh, Verdum. Right. Nah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
so. I mean, it's.
Go ahead.
Or will Verdum fight Fedor? I mean, there is a story to Verdum and Fedor. That was a pretty memorable fight. The minute that it lasted. But I think that Fedor's UFC debut would be a pretty big deal, and I just think if he wants to fight again, it's the place for him to go. And there's plenty of opponents for him. I mean, I think that a fight with Velasquez, I think a fight with Verdum. I think that those are all really intriguing new fights.
Fedor Verdum 2 would not surprise me in the least bit, especially in this day and age where you have Alexander Gustafsson getting a title fight, coming off a knockout, Condit skipping over, and Lawler to get a title shot. I mean, the UFC is very much in the business of putting on entertaining fights that can sell. And I mean, it's so easy to sell Fedor Verdum, especially say, look, this guy's done enough to warrant this title shot. So it's a really interesting time, and it's funny because, as you said, last year around this time, the UFC was struggling as far as all the injuries and people pulling out for various reasons. Now, coming off this amazing July, this red-hot summer, they are sitting pretty, so it's going to be interesting to see how they close out 2015. Dave, appreciate the time as always. Great stuff. We'll talk to you very soon.
Okay, great, Ariel.
There he is, Dave Meltzer of MMAfighting.com and, of course, the Wrestling Observer newsletter. An unbelievable wealth of knowledge coming out of Dave Meltzer. We talked to him about the business of MMA for hours and hours, but we do have to move along because coming up next is good friend of the show. Good friend of the show, Tim Kennedy. Tim Kennedy, if you follow this man on Twitter, any form of social media which he runs, not that Fugazi stuff, Tim Kennedy has been all over the place doing things that regular Joe Schmoes like myself could only dream of. I mean, the stuff he's done over the last 4 or 5 months or so, forget about dreaming of. I would not even dream of these things. The stuff that he's done. I mean, we all know about Tim Kennedy. He's an American hero. His resume has been talked about many times over. We don't have to go into it here. But the stuff that he's done, just based off of what he's tweeting about, terrifies me just to read about. The man is, he's fearless. It's unbelievable. And I'm wondering why he does this. I'm also wondering what's the status of his fighting career. I'm wondering a lot of things as it pertains to Tim Kennedy. So I wanted to have him on the show to talk to him because he is so entertaining and he's such a pleasure to talk to. There he is, Tim Kennedy, back from God knows where. Tim, how are you?
I'm awesome. How you doing?
Where did you just come back from?
I flew back from Brazil yesterday, and before that I was in Colombia, Uruguay, Argentina, Paraguay, Panama, I don't know, South.
It's unbelievable. What are you doing over there?
I'm trying to find ways that I can drown myself, freeze to death, get blown up, shot, stabbed, murdered via machete with dudes on scooters.
What? That happened?
Yeah.
Someone tried to attack you on a scooter with a machete?
It ended up being anticlimactic. It was, I was driving my 4x4 with a couple of crew guys in the back. We pull into like this jungle area to try to fix some of our Pelican cases. And these guys on these scooters cruised up with machetes. And it was like, it's like it's like that moment where we're looking at them, they're looking at us. I don't have my machete or my gun yet. but they have theirs. I was like, oh man, this is gonna get ugly fast. But fortunately, my remarkable fluent Spanish got us out of that really tight spot.
Oh, where were you? No.
Argentina.
Okay, so I want to rewind here for a second because I remember talking to you. We were texting around April. I think I was in Montreal for UFC 186, and you threw out the idea of a sort of loser leaves town match against Lyoto Machida after he had just lost to Luke Rockhold, right? You said you wanted to fight him. If you can't beat him, you're done, and if you beat him, he's done, right? Is that accurate back then in April?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, I think I said that.
And you said, cool, great idea, but I'm off to Brazil. I'm off to South America for a few months to do a whole bunch of stuff. So I'm going to be off the grid for a couple months, come back. So since then, that's when you embarked on this journey. Are you done with your travels? Are you back here in the States for good?
Yeah, I'm never done with my travels, and
Okay.
I'm never back in the States for good, but I'm done with this segment of me trying to die. And I'm going to be here for at least 2 months training.
Can we talk about why you went to South America initially?
Yeah, filming a TV show
Mm-hmm.
that's going to be on the History Channel. It's going to come out in October, and I'm the main idiot in the show. I guess I'm an investigator or a special operations guy.
Okay.
So I was down there filming 8 episodes for the History Channel.
What are you doing there?
For this TV show.
What are you doing over there?
Down there?
You can't say. What's the premise?
We are using current, up-to-date technology to solve historical questions.
Wow.
Yeah. And hunting down war criminals.
That's the craziest part, because these war criminals, aren't they kind of old at this point?
Most, well, from the really big war, most of them are super old. And it's like super tragic. It couldn't be more pathetic when you're talking to like a 95-year-old dude and you have a picture of his ID card from Germany, and he's lying to you. He's like, oh yeah, my dad was a pig farmer, and my mom, she worked on clothes. She was like a tailor, and you're like, so I know where you were born in Berlin, and I have the address that you lived in when you grew up for 20 years. So can we just stop the charades? You're really old. It's old to me. You don't need to worry about it. I'm not going to put you in cuffs. It's just it's kind of heartbreaking.
Heartbreaking.
I think it's kind of anticlimactic.
Screw those guys. Screw those murderers. Heartbreaking. He's not heartbreaking. These are.
He's been lying for 95
yeah.
years. It's heartbreaking that he still is doing it.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Yeah, okay.
Oh no, I would put him in cuffs at 95 years old, throw him in the back of the truck, and I would take all of his family's money, and I would take all of his kids' houses. I'd confiscate everything and burn it to the ground. Yeah, they killed 2 million innocent people. I give zero shits about them.
So
Zero.
These interactions are on camera?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, this is unbelievable. I can't wait for this. Did you enjoy it?
Yeah. It's pretty crazy, pretty remarkable. The places that it got me into, off the coast of Argentina, using side sonar and magnetometers. I'm scuba diving in swamps in Brazil and Colombia. Hidden cameras all over me to go talk to people. Going into fight clubs. So in the Hitler Youth culture. Fighting's kind of a big deal. The origin, the genesis of kind of the fascism movement was very violent, and that has been deep seated in their culture. So you could go to fight clubs in Argentina, and you'll find dudes that have swastikas tattooed on their necks, or the Iron Cross on their side, or their dad's or their grandpa's serial number tattooed on their back that worked at Auschwitz or some horrible place. It's just very ingrained in the culture.
When you walked up to any of these people, did any of them know who you were? They would say "Are you Tim Kennedy of UFC Strikeforce?" Really?
Yeah.
Wow. What's that like?
It was. I used that as leverage.
Yeah.
As why I can't say, hey, I'm an investigator for History Channel trying to find Nazis. Do you know any? Instead, it's hey, I'm Tim Kennedy. I'm in Argentina on holiday, and I want to go grapple. You guys down for some training?
This is unbelievable. This is what reality TV should be about, not people going to get manicures and pedicures.
or spray tans.
Sure, or that. Was there any point where you were like, this is not smart? What'd I get myself into?
Oh yeah, there was like,
Okay.
yeah, there's a lot of.
I know your background. I mean, you're used to being in these positions, but sometimes you're there with the camera crew. You have a bullseye. You're not exactly incognito, right?
Yeah. So the camera crew. Anytime I've gone places where people want to kill me, I have 8 other dudes that are just like me that are pretty okay with other people trying to kill us. This is totally different, where I'm there with 8, 10 other dudes that are from California. That the only thing they've ever shot in their life is a video camera, and they're trying intentionally to put me into the most dangerous situation that they can because it looks cool on camera, with the expectation that me by myself can either get us out of it or I'll die heroically on camera. I think that was what they're hoping for.
And you're the only guy? Like, you don't have a partner in crime? It's all eyes on you?
At every area or place that I went to, we brought in a specialist that was with me.
Okay.
But for everything, I'm the guy. So when we're at one place, we bring in this death claims investigator to look at the legitimacy of what they're doing. Then we bring in the CIA guy to do the human analysis of the intelligence that we're getting. Then we bring in like this underwater archaeologist. We bring in, we bring in the best guys from around the world for every little segment that's pretty badass.
So amazingly, we are approaching the 1-year anniversary of your last fight. Pretty amazing, right?
No.
September.
Time flies.
I can't believe it. It's shocking to me. Where do we stand with your fighting career?
What am I? I'm ranked like 7 or 8 right now. So I've only slipped a spot, which is crazy because there's like 5 dudes above me that I would murder or smash. Where do we stand? So everybody, I think I've been calling out every single middleweight that has fought, that is ranked in the top 10 in the past 6 months. Or every marquee name.
Sure.
I think I've called out everyone.
And what's
Have
happening?
I missed anybody? I mean, like Anderson got him. Fedor got him. Dan, he's marquee, but not top 10. Lyoto, Musasi. I mean, like, I don't know.
So what's going
Have
on?
I missed somebody? I don't know.
Well, because you already...
So I guess how the matchmaking works now is you just find 2 dudes that previously used steroids or testosterone, and then you just make them fight each other because they're going to lose to everybody else now that they're off of it. That's how it works. Oh crap! I'm not wearing my Reebok shirt. Hey Ginger, will you go grab me my? No. Just
I really thought the Vitor fight made a lot of sense, especially timing wise. Is that the one you're really disappointed you didn't get?
Yeah.
Did you ask for it? Like, did you ever call anyone up, or did your manager, your agent, someone call up the UFC and say that we're ready to come back, we're ready to fight?
Yeah. So Mike Fonseca, my management, he went to the fight week in July in Vegas. Yeah. And talked to everybody and says, "Hey, Tim's pretty much wrapping the show in August," and so I have a big movie coming that I'm going to be in October. So August, September, I'm just training crazy maniac because I have to look like a complete monster for this movie. And I'm going to treat that as maybe like a pre-fight camp. So August, September, 1 week filming, October, fight end of October, November. I don't know.
So
something like that.
I think the good news here is that you're not done fighting.
Well, I'm not fighting, but I'm not done. I'm never done fighting.
The last time I spoke to you, it seemed like, you were kind of contemplating, for various reasons. It felt like the love of the sport. I don't know what, the Romero thing, just something was different for you. Like you didn't feel like you were all in. You need to take some time off. After this time off, it sounds like you're still interested in resuming your career.
Love for the fighting is absolutely 100% still there, and it's always been there. I think my indifference towards the sport has nothing to do with the sport. I still love the sport. I still love mixed martial arts. I still love fighting. I'm always going to be a martial artist. My dad is seated over there on the couch. He's visiting, and they put me to martial arts when I was like stupid small. So this is going to be until back to the age of I can't walk again. So like 80. I'm going to be doing martial arts. So this hasn't changed anything. My disenchantment has come from the business side of it, the officiating, the reffing, the sponsorship. I mean, this just where the sport is now. It's horrible and tragic and pathetic.
What do you mean by that?
So I don't know. Didn't we just have a Glover just fought OSP, right?
Yep.
And the entire Reebok payout was like $100,000 or something.
Oh, of the entire card. I didn't do that math. You mean like what everyone made together?
Yeah, everyone, every single athlete on the entire UFC card for that night.
Did you sit there and do the math, or did you read that somewhere?
I made more in sponsorship money and Strikeforce than every single athlete on that card that night.
In one fight.
In one fight.
Yeah, in one fight. So that coupled with
me versus Luke Rockhold, or me versus Jacare, or hell, even my last fight, me versus Pat Cummings. My last fight in Strikeforce, I made more than every single UFC athlete, to include Glover, who just fought for the title against John Jones, cumulatively. And if that doesn't blow your mind and say what is wrong with the sport, then
is that precluding you from coming back?
Well, that's a major contributing factor. It's not ever any one thing. You know, it's like I'm loving life right now. I'm having so much fun.
Yeah.
Scuba diving, skydiving, hunting, finding poachers, finding war criminals, hanging out with my infant son, making out with my hot wife. I mean, like, my life is awesome. Motorcycles, big old snakes, Everglades of Florida, pig hunting in Louisiana. I mean, this is good stuff.
You're living the dream.
Yeah. So Joe Silva has a task of, finding something interesting, especially with the circumstances surrounding the UFC as a promotion.
I remember last time you were on this show, you were talking about, the drug testing issue, the PED issue in MMA. You actually tweeted afterwards that Lorenzo Fertitta called you up. You had a nice little chat, perhaps stemming from your comments on this show. Now that we're in this new era with USADA, are you happy? Are you happy? Because I believe when you were on the show last, they had not partnered with USADA yet. The thing had not kicked in yet. Are you happy with where we're at on that front?
Oh, this looks awesome. It looks super awesome. Have you heard of anybody being tested yet?
By USADA?
Yeah.
I did see Ronda Rousey get blood tested. Yes, I did. I saw her get blood tested after her fight. So I can say I saw one person. I mean, usually I don't see anyone, to be honest. But no one has really come out and touted the fact that they've been tested, if that's what you're getting at. Yeah,
that's exactly what I'm getting. Like, everyone from, Carlos Condit to Cowboy Cerrone, myself, like guys that are pretty outspoken about PD users, that we want, like, test us at your leisure. We are available. My front door is unlocked. Go, let me know. Come in, take my blood. I don't care. Compared to the, hey, I'm down in Brazil training. No, you can't blood test me here because you don't have a work visa. Any of that stuff. A big, huge contrast. And I haven't heard any athletes from any of the top guys saying that they've been tested.
Did they ask for your input? When you had that chat with Renzo, perhaps others with other members of the UFC executive staff, did anyone say, look, you're so outspoken. What, in a perfect world, what would you like to be done?
Yeah.
What'd you say?
I said, what a super easy solution is, first, initially, right now, the day that it kicks off, test the entire roster. So then you have a clean slate, right?
Yeah.
And then from that point forward, then you can move forward with random testing. Or if you see guys that, and you can do it absolutely so simply, where training habits, as a professional performance-enhancing drug investigator, like, the spokesperson supposedly is, he has the clout to say, this guy physically looks like it. He is training like it, and his performance is indicating that he is on it. So we're going to test him. And then go through the roster with a little prejudice about, using maybe a small amount of perception and discernment about who might be using it.
Right.
We could go through the list right now if you want.
Sure. Well, I don't think that's. I feel like some of the people you called out are some of those people that you're referring to, right?
Dude, I thought it was supposed to be a fun, exciting show, Ariel.
Well,
Where's
no.
your sense of adventure? All right, fine. We'll do it next time.
Did you enjoy the fact that Chris Weidman beat up Vitor Belfort the way he did?
Effortlessly?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like, "Did I fight?" Cool. Yeah, that was awesome.
You know,
it was ironic, completely unsurprising. It's not exactly how I said Chris was going to freight train him, and that's what happened.
You know, this guy fought on Saturday. He's not in the top 6 or 5. He's not someone you called out. But I wouldn't mind seeing a Tim Kennedy-Uriah Hall fight. What do you make of that? Does it make sense for you?
What? Yeah, what Uriah Hall? I want to fight fun Uriah Hall.
Yeah.
Not boring Uriah Hall. That would be super boring.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think of something off the beaten path to get you back on track. You know, I think we missed Tim Kennedy. You know, I think we miss you out there. It's been almost a year. By the time you get back in there, it'll probably be more than a year, unless something crazy happens in the next couple of days or so. I think we need to get you, you know, off your couch, so to speak. It feels like you haven't been active enough over the last few months.
This is true. Yeah, I've not been.
We need you back in this world.
Yeah, I need to. And do I? Man, that was really sweet to hear you say that. Talk about a full journey that you and I have had. Yes. I remember 5 years ago where I was considering skinning you alive.
You hated me. And, is it fair to say you hated me?
Now, yeah.
And by the way, it was less than 5 years ago. Way less than 5 years ago. Before your UFC debut, you almost hung up on me. Remember?
Yeah.
And then you called me once. You called me a pathetic instigator another time.
Yeah. God, you have a good mind.
Oh, I don't forget these things, especially when I piss off someone of your stature.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry. I'm not sorry I said that. I stand by my words at the time. But now, man, it's getting hot in here. Making uncomfortable. I'm glad that we're where we are now.
Yes. Hey, I want to ask you about this, not to dampen the mood, but you tweeted about a friend of yours yesterday who you lost.
Andrew.
What happened?
You make me. If you make me cry, I'm gonna get mad at you again.
No, that's not my intention. I just wanted to ask because you tweeted about it like less than 24 hours ago.
Yeah, Andrew McKenna he was a Special Forces Master Sergeant, and he was in a First Sergeant role. So he's a Green Beret. He's a sniper, Halo guy. He was on my ODA, Operational Detachment Alpha for 7th Special Forces Group. I consider him a very good friend. He was in Kabul, Afghanistan with a guy named George Vera. They were training Afghan police officers when a whole bunch of guys ran into the base to try to kill everybody on the base. They shot a whole bunch of them. The bombs went off. Andrew and George both survived the bomb blast. They stand back up and they do what every single Special Forces guy does is they start running towards the gunfire. George and Andrew end up being in a few-minute gunfight, killing a whole bunch of dudes. Both of them got shot countless times. George got shot 8 times. He's still alive. He is flying from Germany to the States. He got shot in the shin, the knee, the leg, the hip, the liver, the kidney, and then 2 rounds in his spine. So right now he's paralyzed. And Andrew, who I was that's one of my very best friends when I was in Florida. He got the final round was in the head. So he got shot in the head between his orbital and his temple. And he died there.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. How old was he?
33. 35, 33.
And you just found out yesterday?
As I was boarding my flight from Porto Alegre to Rio de Janeiro, I got the first text, and then I started getting more and more and more. You know, at the time it was just, hey, one of our brothers is messed up pretty bad, and then another one was, hey, it was Andrew, and then by the time I got to Rio, it's pretty much out. And then boarded my plane for Rio, and when I landed in Houston, I had 150 some odd text messages saying, hey, you know,
I'm very sorry about that.
Yeah, but not to sound. He died with his kid on, with his gun, running towards gunfire.
Well, my condolences to you, his family. I mean, just that stuff is very hard. I appreciate you talking about him. Again, we miss you out there. I hope now that you're back from your crazy travels. So October, History Channel. What date does it premiere? I can't wait for this.
It's second week
of October.
October, I think. So there's a TV show called Oak Island on the History Channel. It's big pot. I don't know anything about it, but it's like apparently a big deal. The night that the finale is of Oak Island, we are the next.
Awesome.
And
Okay.
we follow that up.
Well, we have to have you on.
There's a date.
Yeah, we have to have you on to talk about that. I'm actually going to look up. What's the name of the show? Do you know?
I can tell you.
Okay, fair enough. You've said enough. I can't wait for that, and I hope that you coming back on this show is a sign that you're coming back to a cage near us. Because, like I said,
well, there's a big fight card in Dallas.
Yes. Oh, perfect. We were just talking about that. Your neck of the woods.
Like 2 hours that way.
Perfect.
If you drove this way.
Let's work on that.
Yeah, Anderson Silva.
Oh.
Number 2 middleweight versus Tim Kennedy, number 7 middleweight.
Well, let's see if he's cleared. He has a big commission hearing on Wednesday, August 13th. That is Wednesday. No, Wednesday? No, Thursday.
He can have my blood after you just inject himself with my blood from this point forward, and he'll be good. And then we'll fight in Dallas.
That's your dream. Anderson.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Okay. Yeah, that'd be the perfect. Tim will get off the couch.
Yes.
For Anderson Silva in Dallas.
All right. Your lips to Joe Silva's ears. Thank you very much for the time, Tim. Great to have you back in the mix here. Welcome home, and we'll talk to you soon.
Ariel, pleasure.
There he is. Tim Kennedy, great guy. Looking forward to his return sooner rather than later. And how about that show? Wow. That sounds fantastic. That sounds amazing. Only Tim Kennedy would do something like that. I highly suggest following this man on Twitter. If you want to feel like a very lazy human being, if you want to feel like you've accomplished nothing, just follow Tim Kennedy on Twitter, and you'll be on your couch eating cheese doodles, which I had this past weekend. And Tim Kennedy will be somewhere in South America, Brazil, Argentina, who knows? And he'll be standing there with a gun. He'll be flying out of a helicopter, jumping out of a helicopter, jumping off a cliff. It's unbelievable what this man does and what he puts himself through. All right, in a minute, we're going to be joined by George Lockhart. We had George on the show, I believe, in February to talk about his work, the work that he was going to start to do with one Chris Cyborg. He was hired as her nutritionist. He's worked with her a couple times now. And as I said at the top of the show, a lot of speculation about Cyborg Ronda, about her weight, all that stuff. There's only really one man who can answer these questions for us. There's only one man who's educated enough to speak on this subject, and that's George Lockhart. So we wanted to have him on the show to talk about that and a whole lot more. He joins us now via the phone. George, are you there?
Yeah, yes, sir. How's it going?
Great to have you on the show, George. So, you're in my opinion, you're the most wanted man in MMA because this fight is, on everyone's mind. Every show, every media outlet that talks about MMA is talking about the possibility of Ronda Rousey versus Chris Cyborg. And you're the only man, in my opinion, you're the only person, even more so than Cyborg, who knows if this can actually get done. So let me ask you the question. Can Chris Cyborg make 135? Given your history with her, given the work you've done, can she make 135?
Yes, she can.
And how long would it take for her to do that?
The timeline, the more time we have, the better, obviously.
Okay.
We could get her down there within, 4 to 6 months.
So this talk of December 5th, would that be premature?
No, not necessarily premature. If they want her to fight December 5th, that would be, within the timeline. It would be close, but she could definitely make 135 by December 5th.
Do you need to have some sort of test cut to make this successful? Like, does she have to actually hit 135 in order for you to feel confident that she can actually make it come weigh-in day?
No, I'm totally against like test cuts.
Why?
The reason being is just it's so much time that you waste. There's so much that you lose. When you do weight cuts, it really is. It's nothing but a numbers game. How much water somebody's holding, how much mass that they have, and what we need to do. And the thing is when we do a cut, that last week, people, they're not able to train. You're not able to train because you're concentrating on the cut, and your body, it doesn't have that water that's protecting tissue and things of that nature. That's where a lot of people, they actually get injured on the last couple of weeks before the cut because their body's not as strong. Doesn't have that protective layer. So it's 2 weeks before, but a lot of people don't realize that a week after the fight, you have to do something called like detraining. You gotta kind of get back into the mode of training. You can't just go and like, okay, well, I took a week off. Now we're going to go back into doing what we're doing. When you do a test cut, you're losing like 3 weeks to a month of actual training just to do a test cut. When the numbers if the numbers are right, then you know that you can make it. And let me tell you, Ariel, like I'm not going to lie to you. Every time, when I get the phone call, it's not because hey man, I got an easy cut ahead of me. You want to come help me out, and I'm willing to pay you. It's like, man, I got 30 pounds. I got 4 days. I haven't had anybody, miss weight while flying out there or anything like that. But I look at the numbers, but I still, brother, like you sit there and you're like, okay, gotta believe the numbers, gotta trust it, but it still doesn't mean you don't stress out.
Yeah, everyone always calls you with like some sort of emergency, right? Like you have to move a mountain essentially to get this done, right? No one calls you for a walk in the park.
No, man. I get those occasional calls, and it's usually the elite of the elite. Then you realize you're like, this is why they're the top notch. This is why they're champions. Is because they don't wait until they have to call me. They, it's like pre-maintenance. They stay ahead of the game and make sure that there isn't any problems.
So do you feel like, okay, so you say 4 to 6 months. We're now less than 4 months away. Let's just say December 5th. Actually, before I ask you that question, let me ask you this question. Back and forth this weekend, we have gone from, Tito Ortiz to Cyborg manager Dana White. Some saying she's been offered this fight, some saying no. Do you have any insight into this?
All I know is that the camp finally asked me if she can get down to 135. I was on your show before.
Yeah.
And, I said, it wasn't even something in my brain housing group. I wasn't thinking about it because they had always wanted me to get to 145. And they finally came out and they said, hey, George, can we get it at 135? And I was, I told them straight up. I'm like, yeah, I believe that, for a while, but I didn't want to say anything because that puts Chris on the spot. Chris has got this new fire about her. She really wants this Ronda fight. And she's like, George, can I make it? I told her, yes, you can.
So this is the first time they actually asked you that question?
Yes.
Wow, that's interesting. When did they ask you that?
Man, I think might have been about a week ago.
And
maybe
you
a little less.
You said with no hesitation, yes.
Yes.
Wow. And did you feel like you needed to work with her in order to feel like, is there something about her diet, her weight training, her training in general that makes you feel like even though she's never hit 135 before, she's never gone lower than 140, that no problem,
right.
It wouldn't be a risk to do this?
No, as long as we have the time, as long as we have the time, and I told her it's going to be hard. And the fact that I have worked with her makes me so calm. There's so many things that I learned about her body this last camp. I'm literally like, we lived together. So I knew exactly what she was eating, when she was training, what she was doing at each training session. And then even more importantly, the cut. A lot of people, it's not that they can't, their bodies, or they don't have the ability to cut the weight. It's just they don't have the mindset to cut the weight. If Chris needed to go out and she needed to run, 10 miles, I remember, we'd have an off day and she would go out and run like 7 to 10 miles just for the heck of it. That blew my mind. I'm like, oh, that's not normal. You know what I mean? That's pretty impressive, and that just shows that, you know, she has the ability. A lot of people, they don't have the athleticism or the conditioning or the mindset to do this. She does. So, you know, I don't see it being a problem at all.
So once they asked you this, once you said yes, did you actually start talking to Cyborg herself about this move, about this possibility?
Yeah, you know, she said, George, you know, she made me, you know, she's like, made me promise. She's like, hey, she's like, if I'm not going to be strong, I don't want to fight at 135.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, that is her biggest fear, and rightfully so, man. Her health is my number one priority, but also, you know, I want to make sure she fights ultimately. I couldn't tell you how mad I would be if I cut down and somebody beat me at this level. Somebody beat me, not because they were better than me, is because I was at 70% of me, you know. And that's what I want to make sure. I don't want to, you know, the question really isn't can I get her down. That actually is the easy part. The question is, can I get her down and be as good, if not better, than she was at 145? And, you know, that right there, that's my goal. My goal is to make her better, faster, you know, explosive at 135.
Can you answer that question now, or is that impossible because you haven't done it?
No, you know, it's very, very possible. Like, okay, you got the science part, and then you have, you know, just actual, you know, life. When you're doing a cut, it's like, okay, when you write numbers down, every time, like I was out there with Chris, every week there were certain numbers that I had to hit.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we hit those numbers, and like I said, you have to hit the numbers. And, you know, what I wanted her to hit, like 160 is what she needed to hit the week before prior to the weight cut. Well, July 4th, like I'm looking at my notes, July 4th, she was 170 pounds. And July 8th, she was 145 pounds. And the kicker was, this is one of her easier cuts. And if somebody looks at it and says, well, wait a minute, you know, July 4th, you know, 170, you know, that's a 25-pound cut. But she'd hit 160. The body fluctuates, the body changes. And a lot of people, they just look at that number and they don't realize the actual, like the actual real numbers, you know, the fluctuation and the actual, okay, you're holding water today because of X, Y, and Z. Stress, sometimes it doesn't go down nice and smooth in a nice controlled fashion. With that being said, the same thing is going to go on with her performance. You know, like if you do what we want to do, you know, we're going to increase. What we want to do is we want to increase the amount of cardio and conditioning prior to the actual fight. I want her to get down to a specific number using long duration workouts. And as the fight gets closer, I want her to start, you know, actually closing in, and the workout durations are going to be shortened, but they're going to become more intense. And that's how you're supposed to train for a fight. You know, there's a lot of periodization that goes on to this, and when it works synergistically with the nutrition plan, you got a perfect program. What happens a lot of times is if the weight's off, then you end up doing it exactly backwards. You end up doing long-term at the end, because that's the best way, the most proficient way to drop the calories, you know, for an actual weight cut. So you got these guys, you know, doing like, you know, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, you know, an hour on the treadmill, and they're just trying to burn stuff off when they should be doing 15-minute workouts, just high intensity, getting ready for the fight, thinking of only the fight, not the cut. So like I said, if everything goes as planned perfectly, then yeah, absolutely, man. But if anything, she's gonna fight exactly as she fought at 145. I can tell you that. And the cool thing is that I don't think a lot of people realize is I'm probably gonna get her back up to the fight weight that she fights at, very close at 145 the night of the fight at 135.
Which is what?
She usually fights around 68 to 70, man.
Wow. Holy moly. And you're going to do this without an IV?
Yes.
How?
Well, you know, the reload process, man, that's a lot of people, they talk about nothing but the cut. But, you know, I've said this for years, and the reload is even more important than the cut. The food and everything that you input or ingest in your body the night of the weigh is what you're going to be using for the fight. You know what I'm saying? If you miss weight, you lose 20% of your purse. You get your butt kicked because you feel like, you know, crap. You just lost 50% of your purse, you know? So, you know, people, they're like, I got to make weight. I'm like, okay, man, but, you know, we got to worry about your more importantly. With that said, when somebody's dehydrated, a lot of people, in the fight game, when they talk about this IV ban, there's a lot of people that are really stressing about it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you talk to Brian Stan, I worked with him, and for the longest time, he was the first guy that worked with, like, really in the UFC, and he'll tell you, man, I was always like, hey, man, I'd prefer if you orally rehydrated versus taking an IV. Studies will show that it's actually more proficient at cooling the body down, and the core temperature. The lower core temperature is, the longer you can go and the harder you can go. And there's a lot more other reasons out there too, but the kicker is the IV is so much, I guess, easier, more convenient. I'll say it's kind of like the protein bar of the micronutrient world. Like, you don't eat a protein bar because it's the healthiest thing. It's just the most convenient thing, and I think sometimes that's what the fighters, they prefer that, and psychologically they think that it's more important because they don't know how to do it orally. So I know I kind of skirted your question, like, hey, George, how are we going to get her up there? I can give you, the math. I don't want to bore everybody that's on the
I think it's fascinating.
on the show. What's that?
I think it's fascinating.
Really? I can give. Did I give you a real down and dirty? This is how we do it. If
Go ahead.
If you're open.
Go ahead.
Okay, so this is what we're gonna do. First thing, when we drop the weight, we got to find out. Okay, if she was gonna get an IV, how much of the IV? How many IVs was she gonna get? Each IV contains about 9,000 milligrams of sodium chloride. Right. With that being said, it's like table salt. Okay. What I need to do is I need to create shakes that are going to actually have a balance of electrolytes. When I do salt, I also want an equal balance of potassium. To do that, I use something called new salt and U salt. It's basically a salt substitute. It's potassium citrate, and then when you mix those together, 1 teaspoon of like table salt, it'll have about, I think, 23 to 2,500 milligrams of sodium chloride, okay? To get 9,000 milligrams, which is 1,000 milliliter bag of the saline, I believe you have to get about 4, 3 or 4 of those. So you need to mix those in shakes. Now, what people don't realize is this tastes god-awful. It's horrible. But to do this, you want to start off slow. You want to start off with cold water. Cold water empties into the small intestinal tract faster than warm water. People think that, well, your body's got to warm it up first. Not necessarily the case. It gets into the small intestinal tract, which helps the body absorb nutrients faster. You want to put a small amount of carbohydrates into like a shake in the first one. If you put too much, it slows down the digestive process again. I use this waxy maize. I've been talking to a couple of supplement companies, and they're bringing up some different supplements. I think there's been a lot of advances in this. But basically, with that being said, you want to give them a good ratio. A lot of people I see after like weigh-ins, man, they're loading up on proteins and things of that nature. Your body doesn't need proteins. When you take in protein, it releases a hormone called glucagon that tells your body to use like free fatty acids and stored glycogen. Well, the kicker is you just got to cut weight. You don't have anything stored, man. You want to start reloading the body. So when you take an excess amount of protein, it's actually more of a hindrance than anything. What you want to be doing is taking in carbohydrates. Now, studies show that when I take in protein, it creates a pathway that helps the synthesis of carbohydrates. It helps your body refuel faster. And caffeine. So I'll give her a shake, which will have a specific amount of carbohydrates. The way that I find that amount of carbohydrates is I'll take her lean muscle mass. And what I do is when I get the lean muscle mass, I find out how much lean muscle tissue she has. And that is usually about 40% of her lean muscle mass, okay? When I get that number, what I do is I divide that by 2.2, get kilograms, and I multiply that by 13 to 14. That's going to give me the amount of glycogen that each kilogram of muscle tissue holds. That's going to tell me exactly how many grams of carbohydrates I need to reload her with that day and the next day. Then I add another 20% because 20% of the carbohydrates or glycogen is going to be stored in the liver, so I need to add that on top of the overall number, and then I divide that by 8. Once I divide that by 8, that gives me the amount of meals that I'm going to have and the amount of carbohydrates that she's going to have. So let's say somebody 145, usually about 160. You need 60 grams of carbohydrates per meal, and then you're going to take a fourth of that. So you're looking at about 15 grams of protein. So you want 60 grams of carbs, 15 grams of protein at each meal. You get those 8 meals. That lets me know exactly how many grams of glycogen that this individual needs to be fueled up properly and topped off. A lot of guys, they want to get as heavy as possible, and they feel sluggish and they feel slow the next day, and they don't understand why. Well, it's because you had spillage. You ate too many carbs. You had too much food. Or the other guy or girl that didn't have enough of carbohydrates or fuel input in their body because they didn't know exactly how much they needed. Some people overdo it. Some people underdo it. You hit the mark. You have a good day. You have a good fight. There's a lot more that goes into it, obviously, like, with calcium, magnesium, potassium, sodium, all these other things that you need to balance out. But down and dirty, that's how we'll reload her.
Wow. Holy moly. I hope, A, that fighters are listening to this or will listen to this, and B, if anyone, for whatever reason, and I don't think this was the case, but if there was someone who didn't believe that you knew what the hell you were talking about, that pretty much seals the deal that you know what you're talking about, my friend. Wow, that was super impressive. So I want to recap two things in layman's terms. A, you're not afraid about this no IV ban thing. You feel like you can do your job. You can get your fighters healthy, no problem. They won't suffer, right?
Absolutely.
And B, we keep hearing when we talk to people in the UFC about this fight, Ronda Cyborg, arguably the biggest fight they could put on right now, regardless of weight class, regardless of gender, that she needs to make 135 once. She needs to prove to them that she needs to make that weight. And that's fine. If that's what they want, that's what they want. But you're saying here, you don't need that, right? You can get her down to 135 regardless of that first fight at 135 somewhere else.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Say no more. Say no more, my friend. George Lockhart, you are a brilliant man. You are doing tremendous work. And I got to say, I'm not your friend. I'm not, we don't hang out. We don't party together. But I feel better knowing that you're in her corner. Someone as smart as you, as experienced as you, the fact that you're the man who has been chosen to get her down to this fighting weight, to make this dream fight possible, makes me feel better. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like I speak for the rest of the MMA community as well. This is very exciting stuff. Appreciate the time, George. Best of luck to you, and I am certain we'll have you on the show, hopefully when this fight happens, and of course before that as well, to talk about all this because I find it fascinating.
Thanks so much, Dave. I really appreciate it, boss.
All right, we'll talk to you soon. There he is, George Lockhart, stopping by, dropping knowledge on all the uninformed about Cyborg's weight cut and also just weight cutting in general. Sweet Mother Mary, this man is a very smart guy. He knows what he's doing and not taking anything away from anyone else because there are a lot of good ones out there. George Lockhart is a guy that you want in your corner when you're doing this, clearly. I feel better knowing that Cyborg's going to have that guy. Smart guy, doesn't go out there, doesn't puff his chest too much, just does his work, does it well. His clients, his reputation speaks for itself. And don't discount the fact that he is in her corner. That's a very big deal. She's not just picking up a guy who she hasn't worked with. Now that she is committing to making this move, a guy that she has worked with now for the last few months, couple fights, it's a big deal. He knows her. She knows him. That's huge. Imagine she picked someone up to say, okay, I'm going down to 135, and I'm going to hire this guy to make it happen. That's tricky. That's a red flag. But he knows what he's working with here. He knows who his client is. Please, MMA gods, let's make this happen. And look, let's do it on her time. Again, like I said to Dave, I'm cool with that fight happening, the Miesha Tate fight happening in December. I'm cool with that. Even one more. Take your time. Do it right. He says 4 to 6 months. Fantastic. But I just want to see it happen. Sooner rather than later. The UFC 200 idea is a pretty damn good one as well. And if the UFC, look, it's their prerogative. It's their company. It's their reputation. If they want to see her make 135 in Invicta, I'm all for it. But let's see it. Let's see it. All right, let's move along and welcome in our next guest. Always great to talk to Tyron Woodley. He has a big week coming up. Had a big week last week because his prayers were answered. Finally, after much campaigning, tweeting, talking, the squeaky wheel got his grease. Tyron Woodley, congratulations on getting that Hendricks fight. When you finally got the word it was going down, what was your reaction?
I was excited, Sometimes you get offered a fight and you got those butterflies. You know, this is a good fight, especially in our division. Everybody in our division is so tough, and they're so gamey, man. Every fight's a hard fight, but this was really calm. It was really relaxed. It was like, all right, when? What's the date? When do I get my contract? It was really subtle, and it's not because he's not that type of an opponent that gives you that that fear of anxiety, because he can knock you out, he can wrestle you, he can do a lot of different things, he can take punches, but it was just, I'm a man of faith, and I believe that when I put my mind to something, remember they told me I wasn't going to get the Carlos Condit fight either.
Right, that's true.
You know, they said I wasn't going to get that fight, and what happened? I ended up getting in and making the best of it. So I expect to go out there and do the same thing, capitalize on this moment.
By the way, where are you right now? Are you at a Chuck E. Cheese or something?
I might as well call it Chuck E. Cheese. I was out doing the grooming of the beard
for
me and the crew. And you know, we got caught up, so I was running a little late, so we had to tuck away into a sandwich spot with Wi-Fi because I don't want to miss my appointment on MMA Hour.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And how about the Houston date? Does that, I mean, I know you said you'd fight him in September, but there's a bit of a rush coming off the broken foot. Do you feel like you will be 100% and have enough time to prepare for Houston?
Yeah, you know, I'm 100% now, and you know, I was bumping my guns pretty loud. I knew I wasn't going to fight in the July card, but I was pushing for it. And if they would have said, "Yeah, man, I'm ready to go," you know, you got the card in July, my eyes would have opened up like this, because you know, physically I thought I was going to be ready, and I wasn't. But now I'm 100% healed. I'm 100% mentally ready, and I got that break. And, you know, I had that family time. Now I'm ready to fight. You know, sometimes it becomes a chore and becomes a job. But I'm at the point now where I'm eager. You know, right before I called you, I just got off the phone with Duke Rufus and Dean Thomas, and we coordinated the training camp, how much time I'm going to spend in Florida, how much time I'm going to spend in Milwaukee, the weeks, what we're going to work on. And everybody's excited. It's like, you know, they're fighting too, man, because when I go on the octagon, I'm a representative of, you know, guys like Laborio, guys like Dan Lambert, Dean Thomas, Duke Rufus. These guys, they go into the octagon with me, and I'm just excited.
So what's the breakdown between Coconut Creek and Milwaukee? Because I recall prior to your last fight in February, actually it was the last day of January, you said that you really enjoyed your time in Milwaukee and you want to do it more. So how are you going to break it down?
You know, really, I'm gonna start in Milwaukee first.
Okay.
I'm into it gradually. It's closer to my house, so I'm gonna drive up next week. I'm gonna spend a week there. Then I'm actually going up to the Max Holloway and Charlie Oliveira card in Canada. So I'll go to that. Then I'll go back up to Milwaukee for, I believe, 3 weeks. Then I'll spend 3 more weeks in Florida, just fine tuning. You know, smelling the air of Florida, seeing the gym, seeing the banner. And really getting focused on what I'm fighting for. And then from that point, you know, I'll get back home, get my weight down, and get on that plane and go out there and beat Big Rig down like he never been beat before.
Is there something about Johnny that makes you feel like you can beat him, as you just said, like he's never been beaten before? Is there, you know, you have somewhat of a personal history, right? What is it, his ranking? What is it about this guy that made you really want to fight him?
Because I'm a sportsman, man. I want to fight the best. You know, he's a former champion. At one point, you know, he's had 3 or 4 title shots, and you know, one of them he pulled out. The other ones were very close. So with that said, you know, he's arguably one of the best, if not, you know, some people can think he's the best guy in the world. So I can go and fight, you know, a fighter that's outside the top 10, or a fighter that's, you know, a good style matchup, and I go out there and put on this crazy performance and beat him up and look all amazing and to get a title shot off that. But for me, I know that beating the best and consistently doing that is going to make my road to the top deserved and earned. And that's what I can go look in the mirror, go to sleep at night, and I can feel comfortable about that.
Did your paths cross at all in college?
Yeah, we crossed it a couple times, you know. I wrestled Johnny in the Big 12 finals.
Okay.
Very close match. You know, I was in on a single leg. This is a whole history.
Yes.
He had a reputation for kind of whining in college and kind of getting the referees to get on the side. He didn't need it. He was a phenomenal wrestler. He won 90% of his matches, and he got himself to the point where basically even if he didn't go undefeated, he would always show up in the NCAA tournament, and he would go out there, he would win it, he would place really high. So he's a gamey guy, man. He always rises to the occasion. So with that said, that's the stuff that I know about him as a competitor. That makes me want to train hard because I know what I'm up against. You know, even just watching this fight against Robbie the first time, that was a close fight. He had to steal that fight in the last 90 seconds of that first time meeting. So with that and just the history, you know, I lost that close Big 12 match. I never got over it. You know, I had to really forgive him because, man, I wanted to beat him up. You know, Big 12 to us is like, that's almost more important than being an All-American because, you know, the Big 12 is so deep with talent, so many national championships and All-Americans that when he decided to put those 3 fingers and fish hook me, you know, and, you know, I got penalized for biting him. And I'm like, you put your fingers in my mouth. So it caused me, you know, I was kind of pissy about it.
I wanted to have you talk about that as well. So he was accused of fish hooking, and then you bit him, but then you got the punishment, right?
He wasn't accused.
Okay, he did
it. Was
it.
at the end of the period, and I was in on a single leg trying to take him down to go out by the lead. He put 3 fingers in my mouth, and he started pulling my face away to get me off his leg. And he went to the ref. He was like, look, he bit me. He bit my hand. And then the referee didn't even ask me, didn't check for bite marks. They just penalized me, a penalty point, and that was the difference maker of the match. So we wrestled a freestyle match close before, but we've always had very close, very competitive matches. And, you know, he knows he's a national champion wrestler, but I'm not far from him on the level of wrestling. You know, it's a competitive match.
Was the last contest you had against each other the fish hooking match?
I think he got that one 1-0.
So wait, but have you met since then, or was that your last time facing off?
No, man, me and Johnny actually are really cordial now. You know, I saw him at the UFC fight week.
I meant actually compete against each other. Was that your last competition against each other?
Oh yeah, you know. Yeah, he's a guy like me that it's not about hating the guy. You know, I don't have to freaking, you know, talk trash and hate you. I just want to beat you because he's the #1 guy in the world. I want to be the #1 guy in the world. So I can't be looked over once again. I can't be passed up. I can't be taken for granted or disrespected by the fans or whoever, you know, talking crap. If I'm the #1 guy, then I'm fighting for the world title. That's why I want to fight him. There's no vendetta. It's no, you know, I hate this ugly smirk he got on his face, or I think my beard's better, or, you know, his belly big. None of those things are reason why I want to fight him.
What was it like when you spoke to each other in Vegas at International Fight Week?
Well, he knew what I was doing. I was like, well, I tried. It didn't work. And he said, yeah. He said, I didn't reply because it's a business. And, you know, basically he knew what I was doing, but he knows how I feel about him. You know, I sat there, talked to him for an hour. You know, his wife was talking to my wife. But I think one thing that separates us from other fighters, we're actually really not fighters. We're competitors. So I can talk with him, smile with him, have a drink with him. When they lock that cage, I'm trying to knock him out. You know, I'm trying to hurt him. And I think he's going to try to do the same thing to me.
What was your reaction when you found out that Carlos Condit was jumping over both of you to get a title shot?
You know, I really saw it. I saw it after his last fight. I saw the performance he had, and I said, they're going to give him the title shot next. I just immediately thought it, and I said it. And then he was in the octagon. If you remember, after his fight, he said, oh, I'll fight whoever the fans want me to fight. Because I was waiting on him saying he want to rematch with me, he want to get that off his record. He didn't say that. But if you remember, 5 minutes later, he goes in the back like, yeah, you know, I'm ready for the title shot. I got to win over Rory. And somebody prepped him. Somebody got into his ear. So then I get on the phone to you know who. And I'm like, hey, did you call him and prep him? Because his mood just changed really fast in 5 minutes. It's like, no, I didn't, but I probably would have. So with that said, you know, I kind of saw what was going on. And at the end of the day, you know, what can I do? I can cry about it. I can complain. I can bitch. You know, at the end of the day, I thought I had to fight one more fight anyway. I was petitioning for this fight anyway. I got that fight. If I was Johnny Hendricks, now I might be a little bit pissed right now. But everything's a part of the plan. Everything's a part of the journey. This just makes it that much sweeter when I get there. You know, and I got to win this fight. I can't focus on their fight and focus on Carlos Condit. I got to focus on Johnny Hendricks.
Who's this you-know-who that you're referring to?
Malky.
Okay.
I called. I was going to go off on him, and I was early. I was a little jump start on that. He was like, "Calm down, bro. Calm down, because it's not even me. I'm not even in Brazil right now." I was like, "All right, man," because you know, this is a sport too.
Sure.
You got to think of the concept that you lost to two guys, that you're going to get a title shot in front of those two guys. So I'm just planning on going out there and presenting a violent type of style to anybody I fight from now on. And at the end of the day, how many guys do I have to beat? You know what I mean? How many guys are going to be left? And at the end of the day, I'm going to get a title shot. So
Are you and Malky cool now?
I don't know yet.
Oh.
I don't know yet. It depends, because we get into it every week like like some damn brother. So
Right.
we so I just crap. He give me crap. I'm probably his worst client because I always give him the blues. So
Who do you think wins, Robbie or Carlos?
it's hard to say. I think Carlos has always lacked that power in his punches. He has the volume, his endurance, and he has the durability. But it's only so long that you can get hit and not eventually get knocked out. I know his claim to fame is that he has that that conditioning, the comeback ability, and he's never been knocked out. But the statistics will show that if you keep getting flashed or concussed or hit really hard, eventually, like Koscheck. We pulled the analytics. We had the Recoon from Fightonomics pull it for us, and he said, Tyron, if you get on the chin, you can knock him out. He's been flashed a lot, and he hadn't really been put to complete sleep before in his career. Neither had Jay Heron, and I just wanted to be that first guy that stole that consciousness from him. And I think Carlos Hyde, whether it's Robbie or whether it's me, one of us is going to knock him out because he takes too many punches and he's dependent on the shin too often.
So like I said, it's a big week for you because not only did you just get that fight, but your film, Straight Out of Compton, which is all over the place. There's these memes everywhere. Everyone's saying straight out of this, and then I saw yours, Straight Out of Ferguson. This thing is doing tremendous as far as, the build up, the buzz, and it's all over the UFC as well. What part do you have in the film? Like, if I go see this movie on Friday, where am I going to see Tyron Woodley?
When you go and see this movie on Friday, you will see Tyron Woodley playing T-Bone from the Lynch Mob. August 14th, make sure you guys go and check it out. Straight Out of Compton. People are going crazy on the internet, as Ariel said. If you go to straightoutofsomewhere.com, you can put your CD in there. I've seen Straight Out of Consciousness for Betch fight against Ronda. I've seen Straight Out of Living for Meek Mills. I've seen Straight Out of Daycare for some guys with, that's not 6 foot tall. But it's fun, and, the UFC, they marketed with those guys because I'm in the movie, so it made sense to market with the UFC. So Universal did that. And also, people saw the private screening yesterday. I wasn't able to go and see it, but I heard, I had some decent camera time in it, so I'm excited to see the final product.
Yes. Have you seen the full film yet or not yet?
I have not, man, and I'm jealous because the cast had the screening yesterday, and I was driving back from Virginia. So, F. Gary Gray, O'Shea Jackson Jr., Cube's son, Jason Mitchell, who played Eazy-E, all the cast. So they all was watching it yesterday, and I didn't get an opportunity, but people were calling me like, man, you got some really good camera time. Your phone should be ringing for future roles. So I'm excited about that, and I'll see it Thursday for the first time. I'm doing something for Metro PCS in Kansas City. Then I'll see it again Friday because I'm doing something in St. Louis.
Wow, that is amazing. I got to say, when I was a youngster growing up on the mean streets of Montreal, I used to listen to NWA all the time. F the police, man, all day.
The Montreal Basketball League.
We
still got that pickup game too.
and you
can call calls because I am going to be hacking.
No problem.
It's not the traditional basketball rules.
Look, I took away my offer from Benson because he was ducking me too much. So if you want a piece, we'll make it happen. You'll talk to my team. You got to meet. What's that?
I don't see Benson want to come off to me as that great of a hooper.
He talks a big game.
Oh well, I'm not talking a big game. I'm saying up front, I'm gonna be claustrophobic. I'm gonna be fouling. I'm gonna make a ton of shots, but I'm gonna try to stop you from making shots.
And you're everywhere. You just filmed something with Bruce Willis as well. How are you getting all these parts?
I didn't even know I was going to be filming with Bruce Willis until I got on set. I knew he was on a movie, but I film other films, and the lead actor, Morgan Freeman, and all these guys, they weren't actually in the scene because they have two different units. They got first unit, which is usually the storyline. Then they got the second unit, which is the action. I'm usually on the action portion, not so much, the pure dialogue and the storyline. So when I got to set, Bruce Willis was there.
Wow.
Wood Harris from The Wire was there, and Full. John Goodman from Roseanne was there, and the scene that I shot, it was basically just us four. It's 0% you won't see me in the film. So I'm sitting next to Wood, and then Bruce walks in, and then John walks in, and a certain part of the scene is just us four. So I'm like, I was kind of pumped up about that. And the week before, I did a TV show called The Player. So I've been killing it, but now it's time to put that on pause. It's time to do what I do for a living. It was just train to kick butt.
By the way, how are things in Ferguson right now?
Ferguson's all right. I got something Wednesday. I'm going to a Wingstop that was on Ground Zero in West Florissant. My sister actually managed that exact Wingstop. She paid for her nursing school through that Wingstop, and it was one of the few places. The shoe carnival, which is connected directly to that, was burned down, rioted, and looted. And then, several establishments around there. For some reason, they didn't mess with that one. So I'm going to go there and hopefully bring some inspiration to the community, talk about the movie, talk about my upcoming fight, and just, hopefully plan, a partnership with Wingstop and eventually get to meet Rick Ross.
Wow. You are a class act, my friend. I really appreciate you stopping off to do this interview wherever you may be. Spit some rhymes for us. Give us some NWA as we say goodbye. What do you got?
NWA, straight out of Compton. I ain't gonna say the rest because my sons are sitting right here.
Okay. Hey, what's up, guys? Look at that family. What a great family. Thank you, guys. They must be hating you right now for, they seem so upset that they're sitting.
Because they were completely hell on earth 10 minutes ago, so they owe me at least 20 minutes of silence.
Okay. I know that feeling very well. Tyron, congratulations on getting the fight. Congratulations on the Straight Outta Compton deal. Good luck, of course, with the opening on Friday, August 14th. I can't wait. I haven't been to a movie in a very long time. I'm going to go out of my way to see this one. I cannot wait for it. Good to have you on the show. Great to have you on the show, as always. We'll talk to you before the fight, of course.
All right, man. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
There he is, Tyron Woodley, top contender in the UFC's welterweight division. Big fight for him. UFC 192, October 3rd in Texas. What a card that is. Daniel Cormier on the card. Sugar Rashad Evans going up against Ryan Bader. Of course, Daniel Cormier going up against Alexander Gustafsson. Very close to his hometown of Lafayette, Louisiana, so it makes a lot of sense for him to fight there again. I think he's 2-0 or 3-0 in Houston. I know he fought UFC 166. He fought in Strikeforce, I recall. So Houston's been good to Daniel Cormier. Looking forward to that card very much as well. Okay, let's move along. I have been trying to get our next guest on the program since essentially July 11th. Everyone's still very much in awe over what he did on July 11th at UFC 189. It's funny, leading up to that card, the co-main event between Robbie Lawler and Rory MacDonald flew under the radar somewhat because of all the hype surrounding Conor McGregor and Jose Aldo, and then Conor McGregor versus Chad Mendes. And while everyone was talking about Conor July 12th, the following day, his big win, we were talking about Rory MacDonald and Robbie Lawler just as much, if not more, because what they did inside that octagon, nothing short of amazing. I joked afterwards that they were going to put that clip of them facing off against each other at the end of the fourth round into that Bubba O'Reilly highlight reel, because it's one of those iconic clips, an instant classic. It was legendary the moment it ended. It was an honor to witness, and I've been wanting to have Rory MacDonald on the show since then to talk about the fight, where he goes from here and all that stuff. So happy that he is on right now, right here on the MMA Hour. Rory MacDonald, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
It is great to hear from you, my friend. So it has been almost exactly 1 month since we saw you in action. I believe this is your first interview since. How are you feeling? I mean, that's the big question right off the top. Physically, how do you feel?
I feel good. I've been training almost every day since the week after the fight, pretty much. So I'm feeling pretty good.
And what injuries specifically did you suffer in that fight?
I got a broken nose and a really tiny fracture on a joint in my toe. But it didn't really, the toe is not really an issue. It was more like the swelling from just like the damage.
Right.
Kicking and stuff. But mostly it was just the broken nose. That's the only thing I'm really dealing with right now.
Did you need to have any kind of surgery?
No, it looks like I'll be okay.
And you were able to fly home right away, right? You didn't have to stick around in Las Vegas despite the broken nose?
Yeah, I went home that the next night, I believe. Yeah, Sunday night.
It was a weird thing for me because and I know this sentiment was shared by a lot of people. You know, we try to remain as unbiased as possible, but we are human beings, and knowing how long it took for you to get that title shot, knowing what it meant to you, to see the way it ended was heartbreaking. It was hard to watch because you were so close. Are you still over? Are you still, are you still thinking about it? Do you still feel hurt by what happened? You, again, according to the judges' scorecards, you were right there. How did you react to it?
No, I'm happy the way it went. I thought it was a good fight. It was an amazing experience. I'll never forget for the rest of my life. And, that's what it's about. It was an amazing experience. And, I'm grateful for what happened in there. And, I think it's going to help me grow as a martial artist. It's going to turn me, it shows me what it's going to take to be a champion and, the changes I need to make to get to that level, to just get a little bit better so I can remain champion, Oh, I know. Also, I hurt my MCL as well. Forgot about that.
In the fight?
Before the fight, but yeah, in the fight made it worse.
How many weeks or days before the fight did you hurt it initially?
Before training camp started.
Wow. So you went into that camp a little banged up.
Yeah, but who doesn't go into fight camp?
You tweeted a picture and you wrote this text. You thanked Robbie Lawler and Faraz Zahabi, your coach. You said, "This was the best time of my life. I'll never forget this fight." And it's a picture of you completely bloodied and with the text, "So you want to be a fighter." That was the best time of your life?
Certainly. It was the greatest moment of my life, the best experience. It was a real experience. It showed me who I was. It was the best. It was the best moment of my entire life. It was amazing.
So you enjoyed that more than any of your big wins, beating, Tarek Safdie, any of those guys?
Yeah, obviously I'm disappointed, that I didn't win. I wasn't able to push through and stop him, but at the end of the day, it was just like once in a lifetime experience, and I'm grateful for it.
What was that feeling like? Because it was interesting to watch again. You're in the fifth round. It's obvious that you're bloody. Your nose is busted, and then he punches you with a jab, and it's almost like it was almost like a delayed reaction. It hit you then. Okay, this is too much. What was that feeling like? What was that pain like?
I believe it was a straight left.
Straight left. Okay.
Yeah. Pretty much he was just being really accurate with his left hand in the fifth round, and he was really finding the spot with his left right on my nose, and it just was giving me shockwaves through my brain and my body, and I don't know, it just stopped me. I don't know.
Have you ever felt that before?
No, I've never broken a bone in my life, so it was an interesting feeling to fight 3 rounds with a broken nose. But I was doing okay until like the fifth. I was okay, and then like it just kind of started finding a home for that left hand right on my nose, and it was some nice punches by him. So.
Have you watched the fight again?
Yeah, certainly.
What's it like when you watch it?
It's pretty cool. You relive moments and stuff like that. I don't know. I enjoyed watching it,
Do you agree with
Robbie's an amazing fighter, He's an amazing guy to fight against, and I can't wait to fight him again. We're going to fight 5 more times, I bet.
Really? That's what you want? You want 5 more of those?
Yeah, he's the funnest guy in the world to fight. That guy brings out the best in you, for sure.
Do you feel like the judges had it right? You were up 3-1 going into the fifth?
Yeah, I do. I agree with that.
So everything's so positive. Everything you're saying is downright remarkable. Does the thought ever, cross your mind? I was 4 minutes away from finally being a champion.
Yeah, but I mean, the reality, the guy stopped me. So,
yeah.
I mean, I wasn't slipping those punches when I should have been. I wasn't applying good technique. I wasn't using movement. The foot was kind of keeping me stationary, and he did what he had to do. He closed the show on me. So, I mean, he's the champ now. He's the champ for a reason. So, I'm going to learn from it, and I'm going to get better, and I'm going to come back, and I'm going to beat him.
What was the biggest thing? You said you learned some things that's going to make you better. What's the biggest thing, one or two things that you learned about that fight, that performance, that you're going to correct the next time out?
First thing that comes to my mind is my training method. I'm going to make it a little bit more intense on myself.
Okay.
I'm going to probably start applying small glove training, like I used to in the past when I first started out. Training more at Toshido and stuff like that. But yeah, no, like obviously at TriStar too, but just applying more small glove training rather than the big gloves with headgear and shin pads and stuff. I just think, and then some other things too, that you'll see in my next fight. I'd rather show it than talk about it. But I do know that I have a strength that I need to work on, and it'll make a huge difference in my fighting.
So you'll be doing your next camp, at least a portion of it, at Toshido in BC, where you started?
Yeah.
When's the last time you did that?
I'm just gonna be traveling around between all my camps. I haven't spent enough time working at Toshido. It's a different regiment, and I believe that needs to be it needs to be back in my game. I'm just missing something from my past.
So
but, obviously, I still need my TriStar team just as much as ever.
You'll still have Faraz and company in your corner.
Oh yeah. Faraz is my head coach. And for a reason. He knows what he's doing.
What was that moment like? That stare down at the end of the fourth round. What was going through your mind? You know what I'm talking about, right? That's one of those moments that I'll never forget it. Just watching it, the round is over, and you guys do not want to look away from each other. What's going through your mind when that's happening?
I don't know. I just didn't want to back down. He's a bit of an animal in there, so he started staring at me, and so I figured, we're probably gonna start fighting here again. I don't know. I just didn't want to back down. I didn't want him to alpha me.
Sure.
If that makes any sense.
No other fighter has ever brought that out in you, you think? Like, have you ever felt the way you felt in a fight like you did at 189? Carlos,
yeah. Carlos Barnatt for sure is another guy like that who has an iron will. And that fact that those two are fighting, that's going to be an amazing fight. Can't wait to watch that one.
Yeah, I saw you tweet about that as well. There was a GIF that was passed around all over the place after the fight of the doctor coming to you, pressing on your face, and then you just kind of collapsed.
Oh, yeah, that thing.
Yeah. Is that hard to watch?
No, not really. Why?
Well, I don't know, because it seemed like you're in an extreme amount of pain.
Not really. I was exhausted, disappointed, dizzy.
Right. And then you go to the hospital, and then there's a picture tweeted of both of you just having a laugh. What did you say to each other?
Nothing. Just congratulations, and that was a good time. Hope you're okay. This and that. Not much. So we're competitors. I have nothing against Robbie. I have nothing against any of the guys I fight, really. In fact, I like them. I have more respect for the people I fight than, people in general. So, I don't know.
Do you enjoy that sort of, after the fight meetup, you get to sort of reminisce about the fight, see your opponent, he's in the hospital too. Is that a nice way to end the night for you, or is it awkward?
No, it is kind of cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, that picture is, I showed that to my mom. I mean, this is what the sport is all about.
Yeah, for real. It was a cool moment.
Dana White said afterwards that you didn't know what year it was after the fight. Is that true?
Yeah, that's not true. She was just asking me so many damn questions, and I was like just trying to get air, and like try to like spit out all the blood that was in my throat and my lungs and stuff. So I was just annoyed, so I stopped answering her questions.
Okay. The doctor.
Yeah.
This in the cage?
I knew what year it was. I knew everything that was going on.
Is this in the cage or after in the fight when you're in the back?
In the cage.
Wow. So she's just peppering you with questions right then and there.
Yeah. I don't know. I was not into talking to a doctor right then.
Sure.
I was just kind of in my own world, you know?
Perhaps they should wait.
I knew what was going on. Well, it's their job to check on you, you know, that you're fine. And, I mean, I'm not going to question a doctor. That's their job. I just didn't feel like talking to her.
Are you at all concerned about, head trauma, a very big topic these days in sports in general, not just MMA, about the damage that you took in that fight?
Yeah, but I didn't have any concussion symptoms. Like, I never got really, like, rocked, like, as far as, like, my equilibrium or anything like that, or, seeing stars. I never had that once in the fight. It was just the damage to my nose that was a big problem.
I got the impression that despite the loss, you gained so much more respect from the MMA community than any of your previous wins. Did you feel the same way?
Yeah. People. It seems like I'm getting a lot more love.
Everyone loves you now, and we've had.
No one wants. Yeah, like before this fight, I was the boring guy for a while. After the Jake fight,
right?
Even though I was knocking people out and giving fight of the night, people don't give a shit. They hear one guy say that I had a boring fight, so I'm the boring guy. Now I have a good fight, so I'm fucking cool again. It's all fickle. It doesn't matter. I don't care. I know who I am, so that's all that matters at the end of the day. So
you just shrug all that off. All the praise, it means nothing to you, much like the criticism.
Yeah, I mean, my next fight could be fucking boring again and shitty, so they're going to hate me again eventually. Who knows?
But what about
care what people think.
What about from your peers? Was there one fighter in particular, a person you look up to who reached out to you, text you, sent you a message, and said, "Holy moly, man!" Was there a moment like that you experienced?
Yeah, it's definitely nice from other martial artists that you have respect for, that they give you props and respect. That's always nice because they've been there and they've been in those situations and they've had to fight through stuff like that. So. I appreciate that stuff.
Was there one interaction that really stood out?
No.
Are you going on vacation after this? Or are you really right back in the gym? You deserve a vacation.
Yeah, I went to Kelowna, trained at Toshido. Now I'm back in Montreal, training at TriStar. Going back to Kelowna again this Saturday. Gonna do some training there. I don't know. I'm just kind of flying in the wind, but I'm never going to stop training. I need to get to where I'm dreaming of being, and nothing's going to stop me.
And that's UFC champion.
Mm-hmm.
And when do you want to fight again?
December.
December? Any date in particular?
I don't know. One of the cards.
We've got one December 5th, December 12th, December 19th. Those are the three.
Any of those sound good. I don't know. My nose is still broken, so I kind of have to wait till that heals so I can test it in sparring.
Okay.
And then spar for a little bit, get comfortable sparring, getting it punched again. And then when that's all good, then I'll probably book a fight, within 2 months or 6 weeks or something like that. I'll probably get right back into it. The nose is good.
Did they tell you when they expect the nose to be 100%?
No.
Okay. So now you just have to lay off it, essentially.
Yeah, I'm just not punching it. I'm not doing any sparring.
Right. And do you have a perfect scenario in mind? Someone you'd like to fight in December?
There's so many guys. I mean, I think Tyron's fighting Hendricks.
Yeah.
Carlos fighting him. There's so many good guys, Hector Lombard, Thiago Alves. Who else is in the top 10 that I haven't fought?
Well,
I don't know. Someone I haven't fought who's relevant and who's a good fighter. I mean, I'm good with anything,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. Well, Hector is still on ice a little bit, and Thiago Alves is moving down to 155, believe it or not.
155?
Yeah.
Thiago Alves is going to 155 or 185?
155, lightweight.
Holy! I don't know how he's going to do that.
Yeah, I don't know either. The only one that comes to mind, like in the top 10 that you haven't fought, is well, there's two actually, Damian Maia or Matt Brown.
Yeah. No, I fought Damian.
Yes, you have. Jeez.
Yeah, I beat
UFC
Damian.
170, right? That was when my son was born. So I
don't know when it was, but yeah, I beat Damian, but he's an excellent fighter. Matt Brown definitely is an excellent fighter. Fight him eventually, I'm sure. So yeah, anybody, I'd like to fight someone I haven't fought before. That's good, but if that's not possible, then yeah, definitely a rematch with someone in the top 10 who's good. Whatever, I don't care.
Do you kind of feel like because of how great that fight was, because of your popularity now, that all you have to do is win one more time and you'll get right back in there?
It's highly possible. I was thinking about that the other day because someone asked me that. You see Carlos, he just beat Thiago with an impressive victory, and he's got the title shot. So, and I'm not sure if he lost the fight before that. Did he?
Yeah, he lost to Tyron Woodley. He blew out his knee in that fight.
Oh, right. So, things like that. You never know. I mean, it's all performance-based at the end of the day. So, we'll see. Hopefully. I don't know. I don't care. I don't really give a shit. I just want to fight everyone.
Oh, man. It is so great to have you back in our lives, Rory. It's good to hear from you. And did anyone from the UFC reach out to you after the fight? Did they call you, see how you're doing, check up on you?
Dana and Lorenzo called me, and Dana after the next day called me. They were really happy.
Yeah, was it nice to hear from them? Did you appreciate that?
And also some staff from the Canadian UFC team.
Yeah.
They reached out to me. Because I work with them a lot. Carolyn, the PR team and stuff like that. They sent me some messages and made sure I was okay and stuff like that.
I'm sure you appreciated that.
Yeah, no, they're awesome people. I love those people. They're really nice.
What was your favorite part of the whole process, that entire ride to 189 and the fight in particular? Is there one thing when you're an old man talking to your kids, your grandkids, your friends, this is what stood out. This is why I do what I do. This is why I love my career.
Probably that moment when me and Robbie were staring at each other at the end of the fourth.
It was so great.
that was an intense moment. It was really we're looking at each other like we want to kill each other. And we had the ref in our way.
God,
it was amazing. What an experience.
I hope you get that picture somewhere and put it up in your house. Did someone send you that picture?
I don't like pictures of myself. I don't hang pictures of myself in my house.
But if one can, describe your career in one picture, that's it, right? That's who you are.
Yeah. I also like the one where my blood is like in my mouth and is leaking all over my face. I think that is incredible. I like that. I think that one describes my career, my personality perfectly.
You know what I would say to that, right?
That's why I'm the Red King.
Right, that's exactly why. And another name.
Change it to the Blood King soon, huh?
Oh my God, are you changing your nickname again on us?
Who knows?
I missed
crazy enough too, I think. Huh?
I do think you are. I missed the hair though. Can we get back to the old hair, or is that done?
Well, I don't have a mohawk anymore. I just shaved my head. No.
But what about like the gentleman's part? I like that very much.
Yeah. Maybe that'll come back. Who knows? Maybe I'll grow a mullet, skullet. I don't know.
I like this. I like this Rory MacDonald. It feels like you're worry-free, no inhibitions. You're letting it loose.
Yeah, definitely. That experience in that cage, and some things that happened in my personal life lately. Definitely.
What happened?
Me to be none of your damn business.
Okay, sorry. I mean, you brought it up.
I'm just joking. No, yeah, it's just so.
Good stuff or bad stuff?
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Oh.
Good stuff. It's positive.
Okay. So you're a happy man.
Yes. Yeah, I think.
It feels like that fight, again, despite the loss, it brought out, it just kind of let your guard down and you view everything differently. And that's awesome to hear. I mean, it's very refreshing.
Yeah, well, experiences like that, I think, when you have to push to a certain point, they change you for better or worse. You have to decide right away which route you want to take mentally. And this is, I guess, the way I'm going.
It almost feels like we got this from George too. You know what I mean? Like at one point he went through these wars and then it just seemed like everything changed for him. Like his guard went down.
Right. Yeah, you're right, huh?
Yeah. Did you talk to him after the fight?
Yeah. I trained with him today, actually.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Did he tell you about his plans? I feel like I might as well ask.
His what?
His plans for the future?
No.
You don't talk about that.
Not really. I mean, I don't know. I'll talk to him about it soon, I guess. Probably this week.
Oh, okay. Do you want to call me as well? We could go like a 3-way?
Yeah, I'll leak all his big secrets to you.
Okay. Sounds like a plan. Rory, I'll let you go. Thank you so much for the time. This has been amazing. I was so excited when we got to secure you on this show because, like I said, I've wanted to talk to you for a month now since this fight. I was just in awe. You made me proud to be a Canadian. You made me proud to be an MMA fan. You made me proud to be an MMA journalist. What you exemplified to the world that night, nothing short of amazing, and I think encompassed why we all love the sport so much. So congratulations, my friend, and I can't wait to see you back. And get well soon. I hope the nose. I'm very sensitive when it comes to noses because I can't imagine what it would be like to break my beaker. So I hope it heals soon.
That thing is iron. It's not breaking.
That could be true. That could be true.
Yeah.
But again, thank you so much, and thank you for the time, and we'll talk to you very soon.
All right, buddy. Thanks.
All right, there he is, Rory MacDonald. Relaxed Rory MacDonald, the happy Rory MacDonald. What a pleasure to talk to him on this Monday afternoon. That was phenomenal stuff. Okay, let's move along. Also very much looking forward to talking to our next guest. It was announced last week that he'll be fighting Ricardo Lamas November 21st in Monterrey, Mexico at featherweight, 145. Diego Sanchez on the phone right now. Diego, how are you?
Coming straight out of boot camp.
Yes, a crazy.
I'm doing well.
It is good to hear from you, Diego. Why are you fighting at featherweight next?
Well, let's just go straight to that question, all right?
Yeah, why not?
Featherweight. Let's start with my first email of my life was dsanchez145. And so for me, it's like just my destiny, I guess, because like 145, Diego Sanchez, got to do it.
You've always thought that this is where you're going to end up.
No, it's not even like that. It's just with the sport and the evolution. And trust me, there's like so many guys coming in and out of our gym. And it's just, if you've noticed, for me, what I think, I'm like, I see all these long, strong wrestlers like Luke Rockhold, John Jones. They're wrestlers, but they're long. They have long distance, long reach. And for me, my whole career, I started at 185, and I dropped to 170. I fought most of my career at 170. Even at 165, I feel like I just have always been the smaller guy, the smaller, shorter guy playing the same game plan, trying to get inside of the long reach and get people down to the ground. And through my evolution, I found that being longer, every time I fought a shorter guy, like when I fought Clay Guida, I could kick better, I could punch better, and I just in the gym. It's more in the gym, like seeing all these young and up and coming guys come into our gym here at Jackson's, and I see every different type of body type, and it's just like the more and more I noticed that the longer I could be, the long and strong, the reach, the distance, the height, it came down to that. And all in all, the real truth is when I saw Conor McGregor drop down to 145, the guy's my size. He's not bigger, straight up. Like, the guy's big, like, he's my size, if not bigger. And I was like, wow, look at this guy. He's has a huge size advantage, number one, going into all his fights. He has the reach. He has the leverage. It just made sense. And to be able to see someone my size do it and do it effectively and do it correctively, it just made sense for me to do it. It was the next step for me. And once I got it in my head that I could do it and that I wanted to do it, I basically was like, all right, this is the next step. And there was other fights out there that I wanted too at 55, like Nate Diaz. I had been wanting that fight for so long, and there was just so many good fights at 55 also. But it was just like once the desire was gone, the desire was gone. I had made the decision in my heart that I'm going to 45. I'm going to finish my career at 45. It's where I want to fight. The guys are smaller. Yeah, I know the guys are faster. I get that. Everybody tells me that. I know that. I train with fast little guys that are like jackrabbits. But it's just a decision that I wanted to do, and it's an exciting adventure. And with great sacrifice comes great reward, and that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for great reward, big fights, and look, here we go. I got it. Number 4 in the world, Ricardo Lamas.
Yeah.
I go in there. I do what I know I can do to this guy, dominate him, finish him, and I'm in the mix at 145. And it cannot be denied.
How much do you weigh right now?
Right now, I am 172 pounds.
Okay.
And I walked to the gym this morning, and John Dawson was giving me shit, telling me, "Dude, you look 190." I'm like, "Shut up, bro." I'm like, "Shut up. It's the first day of training camp. Shut up." But yeah, no, he's giving me a hard time. He's my buddy. I'm like, "How much you weigh, bro? You look like you're about 155.
By the way, did you expect that for your featherweight debut, they'd give you a guy who not that long ago fought for the belt, like a true serious contender? I know he's coming off a loss and all, but Ricardo Lamas, I mean, if you could beat him, like you said, you're right in there. Did you expect that they'd throw you right in there right off the bat?
No, the way it went down was with the transition down to 145. First of all, I had to talk to Sean Shelby and be like, "Look, dude, you want me here at this weight class? Something that I want to do." And he was pumped on the idea. And I had threw out some names. I wanted the Caligiuri fight first and foremost, and I wanted to fight in Houston, and so we were trying to put that together. And he threw it out there. He said, "There's a really high-ranked guy that's looking for an opponent in Mexico." And I was like, "Oh yeah, who's that?" He's like, "Ricardo Lamas." So I was like, "Well, not really the fight I'm looking for right now. I want to." I've had a year off. I had a lot of injuries. I want to get in there and really showcase my skills at 145. I want to fight a shorter fighter, da-da-da-da-da. And then, I was watching the fights. I was watching Frank Mir throw down the other day, and I just sent a Twitter message to Ricardo, because me and him are cool. We're friends, we follow each other. So I sent him a direct message, and I was like, "Hey, what's up, bro? If you need an opponent for Monterey in November, yeah, I'm down." And so we started talking, and he said, "Let's do it. Let's give the Mexican fans the fight they deserve. Two Latinos that aren't afraid, who are going to throw down, who aren't going to play that run around the ring, run around the ring around Rosie's type of fight, and a man's fight. We're going to throw down." And for the Mexicans, and it's going to be awesome.
So is part of the appeal here that you finally get to realize your dream of fighting in Mexico? I knew you were supposed to be on that first card against Norman Park. Now here you are in Monterey, the debut in Monterey. That's got to be huge, right? I mean, this is something you've been dreaming about.
It's a dream come true. It's a dream come true. I love the Mexican culture. I love the Mexican fans, and it's gonna be really awesome. I'm pumped for it. I think I have the perfect opponent, and our styles match up really well together. He's a striker. I think he's a striker, a wrestler, with a good guillotine, and I'm gonna go in there and do what I do. I think that I'm gonna have a lot more power at 145, and I'm gonna look for the knockout. And if I can take it to the ground, I'll take it to the ground. I'm a mixed martial artist. I want to fight everywhere. And so I'm pumped on this fight. He's pumped on the fight. And, we're both 33 years old. So it's like a good age matchup also. So I think it's going to be a good night.
So, the big takeaway from UFC 188, the last card in Mexico, was everyone coming in, somewhat out of shape because of the altitude. They didn't, Kane, it was mentioned that he didn't get there early enough. Verdum did. It affected him in the fight. Other fighters complained about this as well. because of this, how early are you going to get to Mexico?
You know, for me, Monterrey, Mexico, by the way, is not even close to the same altitude as Mexico City.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not going to really play into the equation much. But cutting weight down to a new weight class in a different country where the foods are different and, you know, the water and just everything, that's more of the challenge for me. I think I always come in great shape, and fighting and training here in Albuquerque, where, you know, my house is at 5,800 feet, my gym is at 5,000 feet, so I train a little lower than I sleep, and it's always been a real beneficial for me and my cardio. But going down to Monterrey, Mexico, which I believe is like 1,600 feet, it's not going to really affect me. You know, if anybody, it's going to affect Ricardo. He's coming from Miami, you know, coming up a little bit in altitude. So he's the one who's going to have to train for that.
So you are the last of the Mohicans, my friend. You are the last remaining Ultimate Fighter 1 cast member on the UFC. Is that a feather in your cap? Is this something that you wanted?
You know, not necessarily. I would have liked to see more of the Ultimate Fighter cast have a little bit better longevity in their sport, but you know, I was the youngest one on the show. I was only 22 years old when I was on the TV show. So, you know, I look at it and I think of that. I've always done yoga and, you know, looked towards alternative medicines, holistic health. And so I think that has also been a big play on my longevity. But, you know, MMA is hard. It's a hard sport, and we're going to get injuries. And as you can see, it doesn't even matter your age. Look at Khabib. He's constantly injured. You know, he's a young guy. You know, you look at Quinta, and, you know, he's getting a knee surgery. And it's just a constant thing for all mixed martial artists. And the better that we can learn how to train in the gym, like, for instance, today I was training with Russian world sambo champions, and we're doing MMA sparring, and there's a time where, you know, these Russians, they want to go freaking hard, and like, and you have to be a veteran. I have to be a veteran and be like, okay, all right, you know, like, take it down a little, you know, like, be aware, you know. We start going hard. We start really driving our legs on those takedowns. We start throwing a little more gust on those punches. You know, we got to be careful. You know, that's how we're going to get cut. That's how we're going to get injured. And so you have to be the veteran, and you have to determine the level of training and who you're training with. And like, before I get into a mixed martial arts training session, I tell the guy, look, man, dude, no Showtime PEDS kicks without shin pads. You know, like, I'll be real and tell him, like, look, come on, you know, like, I got to make it to the fight, or else I'm not getting paid. You know, you're on a way lower level. You know, yeah, you're having fun sparring with me right now, but, you know, I got a family to provide for. So, you know, like, I'm up there.
How many more years do you want to do this for?
Me? I want to do it as long as I can. As long as I can do it effectively, and as long as my body's holding up. We'll see how things go at 145. You know, like, I do it for the passion. I don't do it for the money. I don't do it for the fame. I don't do it for my legacy. I do it because I love it, above all. I think it's the funnest thing in the world. Even every single training session is just, like, so fun. Like, I love it, man. I love doing cartwheels, and I love running around the mat doing fun stuff. And I love mixed martial arts, and it's a part of my life, and I think I'll always stay involved in the sport just because it's what I know and it's what I love. But as far as fighting goes, I'm 33 now, and I want to fight as long as I can. You know, I would be happy to be like a Dan Henderson or a Randy Couture, but, you know, we'll see. You know, every man has his day when it's time to call it quits, and, you know, it's that's in God's hands. I'm a believer. You know, I'm a believer that, you know, my destiny's in God's hands, and when it's time to step away from the sport, you know, it's time to step away from the sport. But as far as I'm considered right now, even injuries and stuff, I'm gonna fight through it. I'm not gonna quit. I'm not a quitter. I'm not gonna step away from the sport until it's time to step away from the sport. As far as I'm concerned, yeah, I know that my last couple of performances were not the best of my career. The career, it comes in waves. You have ups, you have downs. But as far as my downs have been, fighting Miles Jury, an undefeated guy, sick while I was with food poisoning, and him running from me the whole fight, yeah, it wasn't my best performance, but I didn't go out there and get knocked out. I didn't go out there and get submitted. I didn't get TKO'd. Yeah, I fought the fight with Ross Pearson. It wasn't my best stand-up. I didn't go for no takedowns. I didn't fight the right game plan. But you know what? I didn't go out there and get knocked out. I didn't go out there and get dominated. And so as far as I'm concerned, yeah, I've had some not the best days, but I'm not out my last days, and that's my point.
Back in February, you tweeted a picture of surgery you had, and you mentioned that it was just the second surgery of your career, which is pretty amazing. It was a pretty graphic picture, somewhat gruesome, but also very fascinating to watch, to actually look at and study. And it was your injured collarbone, and they put some sort of, what is that, like some sort of metal rod in there?
Titanium plate.
Titanium plate.
I have a titanium plate with 10 screws put into my collarbone, and it's 100% recovered.
Okay.
All the numbness, and for a while the last thing to go was the numbness, and I've recovered full strength in the shoulder, and it feels great. It actually feels really good. I actually was wrestling and got like something grinded on it today, and I was like, nice little test to see how it felt, and so it was great.
How much did that hurt, that injury?
You know what? It hurt for like the first 3 days where I had to wait to get into surgery, and I just got a broken bone that's just popping out, and just, that was painful. That was very painful. But, as soon as I got the surgery, I felt good, and, of course I'm going to, be excited to get back. So, it was more than anything, it was just frustrating having to wait so long for the bones and the muscles and the cartilages and the tissues to heal, right? Because they open you up. They cut through the fascia, they cut through all kinds of stuff, and it's a pain in the ass, and it sucked. But I'm glad that I had that opposed to like an ACL reconstruction.
A couple of days ago, you also tweeted a picture of a young man. You said that, that you miss him, that you'll never forget him, that you love him. Who is this person? I couldn't figure out who you were talking about.
This is, he was one of my close friends. His name was Jaden Chavez Silver. And he was just a victim, man, a victim of just reckless violence. He was 17 years old in the summer before his senior year, and he went to a party, and they shot up the house. Someone shot up the house while he was there at the party. He hadn't been there for 5 minutes, and he was shot. He was shot in the right underneath his collarbone. It punctured his lung, and he died of, he basically bled to death and choked on his own blood. His lung filled up with blood, and the saddest thing about it all was they called 911, and the 911 operator actually hung up on him. It's a nationwide story, but they called the 911, and the 911 operator hung up on the person that was calling for help, and he didn't make it. He died in the hospital. He made it to the hospital, and he died in the hospital. And he was a very, very close friend of mine. The next day, he was going to be a lifeguard at my 2-year-old's pool party, her birthday party. He was going to be a lifeguard at the pool, and we were going to have a party in my house. And I was expecting him, and then we got the call in the morning, and he was murdered. So I cry all the time, man. cry all the time. I think about him, and it devastates me that they can't find his murderer. They can't. And the worst part about it is, it's a drive-by shooting, so there's no proof. The police department, they have their leads, but it's just one of those things, and it's just hard to get any closure knowing that the person that pulled that trigger is just out there, not serving any punishment for taking one of my friends, a good person, an athlete, a good kid's life. This kid was not a punk. This kid was not a little gangster. He was not a little drug dealer. He wasn't a punk. He was a good kid. He played football. He wrestled, and he was a good kid. And it's a very, very sad thing, but I dedicate this fight for him, and I know that he's going to be with me on my shoulder, out there fighting with me. Every training session I dedicate it to him, and that's my hito. He's my little buddy, and he's gone.
I'm sorry to hear that, Diego. That's a horrible story. So young, man. My condolences. My heart goes out to you, and of course his family and friends. It feels to me, Diego, like you entered this fight as sort of a new man. You talk about this experience, which is you can't even put it into words, but even some of your tweets and you tweeting about the odds and you tweeting about the people who are doubting you. Even my first question was about the featherweights. It feels like you feel, and correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of people are counting you out here that are just kind of saying, well, what is Diego doing? And that you want to prove a lot of people wrong. Is that fair?
Definitely. Yeah, that's like what I was telling you, like how, yeah, I know my last two performances were not my best, and I know that I've had some rough patches, but I've showed some greatness. I fought Gilbert Melendez to a very amazing fight. I showed some great moments, and no way am I close to being done. People don't really like to take into consideration that I've been fighting the best in the UFC for 10 years. 10 years straight, I've been fighting the best. I've never took no slouches. I never took no easy fights. I always was looking to fight the best guys. And so, for people to count me out and consider me washed up and done, it bothers me. It really bothers me. At 33 years old, that people will be like, what about retirement? Everybody, there's people saying, oh, how many more fights you got left? So all those questions that arise, and it's like, what? To me, I look at those people, and I don't get angry at them. I just look at them and I'm like, who are you? Who are you? Who are you to tell me? I'm the expert in this field. I know what I'm doing. Who are you to tell me? You're just some little punk trolling Twitter, looking to get a rise out of a professional mixed martial arts fighter. And so for me, it bothers me that a lot of people are writing me off. But at the same time, I've got a lot of support. I've got a ton of support. And, there's a lot of people out there that tell me every day, look, Diego, you put on the greatest fights. You fought with the biggest heart, and you fight the way we want to see fights be fought. You fight. You're a real, true fighter. And so I know my fans are out there. And I'm fighting for them. I'm fighting for my fans. I'm fighting for the people who support me and for the people who believe in me. But I really do feel that at 145 pounds, it's where I belong. Because I walk around. Ariel, my real true walk around weight is about 174. Yeah, that's me walking around, and not even maybe 10% body fat. Walking around at about 10% body fat. So, for me, I'll cut another 10 pounds and in the next 2 weeks, and I'll be 165, and I'll be looking to cut 20 pounds like everybody else. And that's where the sport has gone right now. Everybody's cutting weight. I see these 55-pounders that are big, You know, these guys are big. Even just seeing Nate Diaz in you know, in real life, you see the guy. He's big. He looks like about 180, 190. You know, maybe even 200 pounds. And so, for me, I'm like, well, you know, I'm tired of being the small guy. I want to be the big guy. I want to be the guy with more power. I want to be the guy with better wrestling. And the other person who really showed me this format of dropping a weight class was Damian Maia, you know, a jiu-jitsu guy who dropped down to 170 pounds. And, I mean, he started dominating great wrestlers. You know, he was taking down Rick Story. He took down Kim. You know, like, I mean, he was just dominating people. John Fitch, I believe, you know, he took down too and just totally dominated him. And I'm like, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do at 145. I want to be the big guy. I want to be the big, strong, dominant wrestler, grappler. But at the same time, I want to have more power in my hands, more power in my kicks. I want to use high kicks. I want to use knees. I want to use all these different dimensions that I wasn't able to use at 155 or 170 because the guys are so tall.
The original Ultimate Fighter, the first ever Ultimate Fighter winner, the last remaining member of the Ultimate Fighter 1, still on the UFC roster, still doing his thing, reinventing himself at 145. He makes his featherweight debut November 21st, Monterrey, Mexico, against Ricardo Lamas. What a fight that will be. Diego, always a pleasure to talk to you, my friend. It's great to have you back in the mix. Looking forward to that fight very much.
Thank you, Ariel. Thank you for your condolences, too, because Jaden was a good kid, and this fight is dedicated to him. And, you know, so every training session, and when I make that walk, you know, people are going to cry because this fight is in his remembrance. And I'm fighting for him this fight, and you know, I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna lay it all down the way I always do. But you know, I also have a lot of respect for Ricardo Lamas, and I just want to put that out there that, you know, I have a tremendous amount of respect for him. He's a good dude. There's no beef here. We respect each other, and it's going to be a very respectful fight. But you know, once they lock that door, you know, he's got a family, I got a family, and we're fighting to feed our kids. So if you want to see a hell of a fight, tune into our fight, because that's going to be a hell of a fight. You know, it's not the main event. My boy Kelvin and Matt Brown, they're going to put on a great 5-round main event, but the co-main event is going to be vicious. So all you boxing fans who want to watch Canelo, you know, if you do, you're going to be missing out on a real war, which is going to be Lamas Sanchez. It's going down November 21st, so tune in.
All the best to you, Diego. Talk to you soon.
All right, bye-bye.
There he is, Diego Sanchez. Great stuff from him, as always. Like I said, changing it up, switching it up, dropping down to 145. Big fight for him on November 21st. Let's move along. Let's go to our next guest, Luke Barnatt, patiently waiting for us. And, you know, it's very nice that he has taken some time out of his day to join us, because if you follow him on Instagram, he's somewhere in Italy, all bronzed up with his fiance on the beach, going shot. I mean, the guy's just living the dream. If this is what post-UFC life is like, Luke Barnatt is doing it right, my friends. Here he is, magic of Skype, Big Slow himself. How are you?
I'm very well, Ariel. How are you?
Where are you right now?
I am actually back. I actually did a trip across the Costa del Sol and all the way from Malaga to Barcelona and back. So I stopped off in Valencia and spent a lot of time in Spain. And like you said, getting bronzed with my fiance. But now I am home in my in-laws' house. So it's not as glamorous as you might think.
Okay, so I must apologize. I said Italy. You were in Spain, so my apologies to the Spanish for that. Why the in-laws, by the way? Have you moved in with the in-laws? Is this what's happening here?
We've got 2 weeks till the wedding. So the wedding is up here in Liverpool. I'm up here preparing and obviously sorting out all the last-minute things. So, you know, I got to be on ground zero where it's all happening. So I'm here sorting things out.
What's the mood like? Are we nervous? Are we anxious? Are we excited? Are we what's it like?
I mean, I'm very excited. Nervous the last couple of days, maybe, or the day before. I don't know. You tell me. But I'm excited to make it happen. You know, I've been waiting a long time for it, and there's been a lot of effort going into it. So, you know, I'm really, really excited for the day. And everyone tells me that it just goes too fast. So I'm going to try and remember it and have a good time.
So you said it's in 2 weeks, right?
2 weeks Wednesday, yeah.
So that's weird because, you know, I remember you saying we're best friends and all in 2 weeks. I know the mail is slow, but I still haven't received my... Is this an internet one? Is it like one of those email ones? Or what?
You are more than welcome to come, Errol. I'm sure I sent something to your email, but you obviously get a lot of important emails, and it must have... Check your junk. Check your junk, your trash. Just make sure you didn't throw it away, because you're definitely invited.
Okay,
100%.
That is good to hear. I'm happy to hear that. Okay, so let's break some news here. You have found your new home. Recently, you parted ways with the UFC, still hoping to one day resume your career there, but for now, you have found a suitor. Let us know.
Yeah, you know, obviously I left the UFC a little while back, and I've been searching for the right company to take me forward and the right people to take me forward. I've had a lot of offers coming in from loads of different places. It's quite a surprising company. I think people will be surprised who I've decided to go with. They're quite a new startup. But there's a company out of Italy, which you mentioned earlier, named Venator FC, the Venator Fighting Championship. They've had, I believe it's 5 shows now, but they are on the television in Fox. And they've been done like an Italian version of The Ultimate Fighter, where they've pitched Italians against each other. And they've done a 13-week series of this show where they've built it up. They haven't had them in a house like The Ultimate Fighter. They've just been fighting. And it's become very popular over there. And now they've built a show off of that. So they had a reality TV program around mixed martial arts in Italy. And now they've brought a big show to Italy called Venator FC, which they've now recruited me to fight their middleweight finalist of that tournament. There's a guy named Mattia Chevalian, who's the best middleweight in Italy, the #1 ranked Italian middleweight. And they've recruited me to come in, fight him for the title on December 12th in Rimini. I think, hopefully I'm saying that right. Right next to Bologna.
Rimini.
I believe that's correct. Yeah,
yes.
I believe.
So we're talking Italy here. Of course, you are European. You're from England. Why'd you choose? And I know there are some organizations in the UK, around the UK. Why'd you choose Italy and not one of the English promotions?
Well, you know, one of the big advantages I had with the UFC was travel. I actually fought on 3 different continents with the UFC. I got to fight in Asia, in America, and in Europe. And that's one of the things. Now, with the greatest thing with not being with the UFC is the power to choose your own destiny, to do what you want to do and be where you want to be. And I wanted to travel a little bit. And I think Venator is trying to really upstage those promotions and really push European MMA. And a lot of guys in England, without the Cage Warriors, obviously was with us and it's coming back, but I'm not sure it will come back with the force that it had before. And without Cage Warriors, there's a real void in Europe for a very, very solid MMA promotion. And Venator have hired Mark Goddard as to be in charge of all of their safety and all of their refereeing and all of their judging and so forth, the backstage. You know, they're very serious about making it a clean, great event for fighters like me. They're very fighter orientated. And, you know, I met with Frank Miranda, if I can say his name correctly. I met him for lunch. We had a long discussion about what I was trying to look for. And, you know, they are just investing in the fighters, trying to make it a good fighters organization, and they're worrying about everything else later. So, you know, a lot of organizations like this start up and they don't last. I mean, hopefully Venator is going to be last at the time. They have the Fox deal in Italy. They're the only MMA show shown on Fox apart from the UFC. So I feel really good about it. And like I said, I've never been to Italy, one of the only countries I've not been to in Europe. So another reason I wanted to go.
Did they reach out to you or vice versa?
My teammates, a very good teammate of mine, the guy who got me into mixed martial arts, Jack Mason, actually fought on their last show. And I spoke to him about it. And then we had a training partner together who was Italian, and he reached out to me on their behalf. And I said, "Oh, sounds interesting. Let me speak." And then we got chatting. So technically they reached out to me, but it was more of a mutual thing.
And is this a one-fight deal? I know you said you're fighting for a belt. So what kind of contract, what kind of deal do you have with them?
It's literally just a 2-fight deal.
Okay.
So we have 2 fights. They've got the next show's in December, and then they're putting on a show in May. So there's a little bit of a gap in between. But within that contract, I'm not exclusively signed to Venator. I'm signed with them, and they're my #1 client, if you will, if you put me as a contractor. And then I can look for other organizations to work with them. And I'm looking for one more organization to fill in the void, to fill in the gap, because I want to get as many fights as I physically can. And I want to fight people all over the world, like I said. So I'm trying to I'm trying to get as many fights as I possibly can to get myself back to the UFC.
So who else are you talking to?
We've been talking to an organization in South Africa called EFC, who are huge over there, over in Africa. They're the only MMA show shown on the television. They have a very, very big outfit out there. And I'm in deep discussions with them, and I'm hoping that'll be the organization I go with. Apart from that, there's been bits and bobs going around, but nothing solid. I'm literally looking for the fights that I can get to take me back to the UFC. So I want good fights with good people and good organizations that are clean and and really trying to push the sport forward. And I feel like I'm a good representative for them. So I'm just trying to push that.
So you're upfront with these executives. You're telling them, look, I'm happy to come. I want to sign, but if the UFC comes calling, that's what I want. That's my end goal here, right?
Yeah, and most organizations know that.
Yeah.
Now at this stage, they understand that, and it's written into the contract. They have a break clause if the UFC come calling, that I can leave and go there. And that was one of the main reasons I didn't go looking towards Bellator. Because they're obviously competitors or whatever you want to call it. And I have a lot of close friends that fight there, a lot of people that I respect that fight there. But it wasn't the right fit for me. And I feel like my end goal was to be back in the UFC. I feel like my journey was very, very quick to the UFC. I'd been fighting barely 2 years, and I got in the Ultimate Fighter and went through that process, was in the UFC, had 6 fights there. And it was very, very fast. I've only been doing the sport 6 years, and I was fighting Mark Munoz, who I wanted that fight, and I still wanted that fight, and I'm glad I had that fight. But, it all moved very, very quickly for me, and I feel like I handled it very well. I enjoyed my time with the UFC. I had some great fights. I learned a lot from it, and I feel like once I get there again, I will be a much better suited athlete for the sport, and I can do much better things.
Will you still be training at Alliance?
For the European fights, no.
Okay.
It's not worth the investment to go out there and train. If I was fighting in the US, I would have, but to go over there and fly back to Europe, it's not going to happen. I'm actually moving to Malaga, Spain, which is why I was out there looking. I'm actually moving there on September 6th with my fiance to live.
Really?
So I'll
Why?
be training. Well, because I fell in love with the sunshine in San Diego, and England doesn't have it, basically. Yeah. It's always been my fiance's dream to live abroad in Spain, and she wants to work in England and in Spain, back and forth. She followed my dream for a long time and helped me out. She lived with me in San Diego and all the rest of it. So it's a small repayment to her. And then I'm going to travel for camps. At the moment, I'm looking I'm looking at one country, but I'm looking to train in Sweden right now for the fights. I'm looking at All Stars, but I don't think that'll be the right fit for me either. I'm looking to train with an old friend of mine from the Ultimate Fighter, a guy named Thor Trang.
Mm-hmm.
He has his own gym in Umeå or Umeå. I can't say it, it's Swedish. It's about 2 hours away from Stockholm. We're very, very good friends. He has a small outfit there. I think I've tried the big gyms like Alliance, and I've been to All Stars a couple of times. I know the coaches very well, but I think if I have a smaller outfit where I'm the main focus for this fight, I feel like it'll be a very good outfit for me. And the Thor suits Mattia Chevalian, the guy I'm fighting. He's like the perfect match for him, and he can emulate him very well. So as we're very close, I think it'll be a much better fit for me.
Shortly after leaving the UFC, you were actually right back in the mix because your friend Arnold Allen was fighting on a card. You were there, fight week and all that. What was that like for you? Was that strange?
It was definitely strange. It was tough. I tell you what was tough. Obviously, I was extremely happy for Arnold, and he got a bonus that night, put on an amazing performance, came back from losing and submitted a guy in the 3rd round. A very, very tough guy, so he made a bit of noise. But it was the fight week itself was hard. I mean, I'm very close to the staff, the European staff. I know them all very well, and they're all talking to me. And everyone you see thinks you're in the UFC or not in the UFC, or they're confused, and you got to explain it. And then the weirdest one, I think it was the Wednesday or the Thursday night. All the staff go out, and they had some guest fighters gig. I can't remember what it was. They went to some bar or something, and I just tagged along. I got on the van. I went to the venue, everything. And I'm not supposed to. I'm not allowed to. You know what I mean? I'm not in the UFC anymore. But I went and tagged along. You got fans speaking to you, and I was lucky enough that there was a couple of fighters there that I knew very, very well, so they kept me company. And David Allen, who's no longer with the company, but I was very close to, was there. So we had some good chats, and it was great. I mean, it showed me it showed me one last time what I'm missing with the UFC, you know, and just seeing the people was hard. I think the organization I'd left behind, but the people who are part of it, even just the PR girls and the people that I know, it was tough to see them again.
Yeah, I thought of that right away. You know, seeing you fight week and all that, I give you a lot of credit. You're a great teammate and friend because you didn't share with the world that this was hard, but just sort of knowing you a little bit and just, you know, normal human being reaction, I was like, wow, this is almost like divorcing your wife and then still kind of hanging out or working with her. Like, it's hard to make the comparison, but you know what I'm saying. It's a strange feeling, but you handled it very well. So now here you are. You're going to make your debut for this organization December 12th. What does Luke Barnatt have to prove to the world? Do you feel like, all right, if I get one win here, I'll get back in the UFC? Is it a slow build? How do you enter this new phase of your career? You're about to get married, all this stuff changing in a short amount of time. How do you enter this fight?
I mean, I don't think I have anything to prove. You know, like I said, I think it was very quick what happened with me in the UFC and how I got there. I think I handled it very, very well. I still believe that we could say 4-2, but I believe my record's even 5-1 in the UFC, which is a great record out of 6 fights, and I'll hold on to that as long as I live.
Well done.
And you know, it's a tough thing to leave and to come back. I'm not looking to have one fight and then get back in the UFC. I mean, I'm looking to reinvent myself, change my style. There's a lot of improvements I need to make that I've skipped because of the speed that it took me to get to the UFC. You know, silly things like stretching. I'm probably the least flexible man. I'm 6'6" and the least flexible man on the planet. So I can incorporate a lot more head kicks, push kicks, a lot more of my Thai boxing, which is the style I originally had. But getting to the UFC and having to pick up on that wrestling so quickly and going training all over the world and living out of a suitcase for the last 2 years of my life definitely had an impact. So what I want to try and do is have more of a home life, a much better home life, a much stable home life where I'm at home, I'm training, enjoying my training, and I'm not chasing what I can become. I'm actually building it from there. And then when I feel like I get to the UFC, because I'm extremely 100% confident I'll be back there. Maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 fights. I'm not bothered about trying to get back there as soon as possible. When I feel ready and I've won the fights that I feel deserve to get me back to the UFC, I'll give Joe Silver a call. We had a chat when it all went south, and he spoke to me about me getting released and how he felt about it. And, you know, they want to have me back in the UFC. I just have to prove myself to them that I can win the fights and get back there.
Cheers, my friend. I wish you nothing but the best. Thank you so much for coming on this show to announce this news. Congratulations to both you and your fiance on the upcoming wedding. Enjoy that process. Don't think about fighting for the next 2 weeks, all right? Just enjoy this ride. Have fun. Have a great night with your family and friends, and I look forward to your debut in December. I'm sure I'll talk to you before then.
I appreciate it, Errol. Thank you very much for having me on, and trust me, there's no fighting going on here for 2 weeks. It's planning tables, seating plans, whatever it is, all that stuff. So I'll be fine. I'm going to concentrate on the fight after the wedding.
And by the way, if you can avoid fighting about that stuff, good luck to you. Boy, was that an annoying process when I went through it. So it's a different kind of fighting, but have fun with that. As they say in Italy, ciao ragazzo, bellissimo.
Bellissimo, ciao ragazzo.
There he is. Big Slow, Luke Barnatt joining Venator FC. As he mentioned, new organization out of Italy. They've done a few shows. I checked out their website, and it's a nice looking website. If that's any indication of who they are, what they do, what they put together. Nice job. Now, I think something that he said that was really interesting was, you know, some people, when they get released, they talk about the UFC getting back in there with the UFC. And it's important not to rush that, because I always feel like those fighters who do that, they stumble. At some point, they inevitably stumble because they keep looking past the fights that they need to get back into the UFC. And it sounds like Luke's not doing that. Sure, he's talking about it, and that's his end goal, and he's open and honest about that, which is fine. But you can't look past these fights that you need to conquer in order to get back into the UFC, because you weren't looking past those fights on the way to the UFC initially. So by doing that now, you're only doing a disservice to yourself. It seems like he's figuring it out. It seems like he's trying to get it all together, and we wish him the best. Great guy, an incredibly smart man when it comes to fighting, tremendous analyst, as I've said before. He has a future in media, no doubt. But for now, he is chasing that dream once again, and I look forward to watching that journey. Wish him the best. All right, let's move along. You know, I said on Saturday that it has become a common theme these days it seems like almost every UFC card, every big-time card, post-fight interview, fighter gets on the mic, thanks Mike Brown. Thanks Mike Brown for his coaching, for his tutelage, for his training, for being there in their corner. This has become somewhat common. Former WC featherweight champion Mike Brown, one of my favorite people in MMA. It has become common. And then when Amanda Nunes won on Saturday night, in my opinion, the big story of Saturday night in Nashville, she defeated Sarah McMahon. Incredibly impressive performance. Dominant win. She is in that mix, as they say. She thanked Mike Brown. I said it is high time we get the former champ on the show to talk about his transition into coaching, because he is doing so damn well. So here he is, joining us via the magic of Skype, the one and only Mike Brown. Mike, how are you?
I'm great, man. Thanks for having me on.
A pleasure, as always. It's been a while since we had you on, and now here you are transitioning. Like I said, I saw something on Twitter, and I forget the number. How many weeks in a row, how many events have you just completed?
Yeah, I've had it's been a rough stretch. 10 out of 12 weeks I've been on the road. 11 shows in 12 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been a lot.
You enjoy that?
It's a little much. I mean, I love what I do, but it's a little. Sometimes I feel like I'm turning into a little bit of a professional cornerman, not a coach. Sometimes, like I'm almost on the road too much. I got to try to go out later, or it was just we have so many good guys that are fighting a lot that sometimes it stretched me thin. But I have some time off now.
Okay, so looking at, let's say, the rest of the calendar year, do you feel like it's going to scale back? Was this just, I talked about on the beginning of this show, 15 UFC events in 14 weeks. So it's been busy for everyone. Do you feel like you'll be able to figure it out?
Yeah, I think it'll slow down now.
Okay.
I think it was just a busy time. I don't even know the next time I go out. Probably my next time will be, I'm guessing, with Dustin Poirier. Probably the next time I'll travel, but something might pop up.
So are you a full-time coach now?
Full-time coach.
MMA is done. The fighting is done.
Yeah, it's weird. I just never, I never officially retired. I just kind of faded off, and I didn't want to make a big deal of it, but I'm retired,
You're retired. Was it hard to come to that realization?
There's parts I miss, parts I don't. So, I love my job. I couldn't ask for a better job. I'm in love with the sport, man. The sport has been great to me, and it was always a huge passion for me. And I couldn't ask for a cooler job, man. Just hanging out with high-level talent, working on techniques and playing around with the game. It doesn't get better than that.
Did it make the transition easier because you just, you took your foot out of the fighting door and now you're in the coaching door, you're still in the same gym, still surrounded by the same people? It's not like you have to go out there and find a 9-to-5 job and now here you are. It's like a shock to your system. Your world has changed. Did that make it easier?
No, it was super easy because I actually before my last fight, I was coaching. I had a neck surgery in 2012. So I was out of training hard for a while. So I started a coaching kind of spot position in 2012. And then from there, I was kind of playing both, trying to coach and fight. But it was a better fit for just me to step back and then start coaching full time.
How does that work at ATT? Do you go up to the guys, Laborio or Conan, Dan Lime? Do you go up to them and say, hey, this is something I want to do? Did they recruit you and say, we see this in you? How did you get to that point where you became a full member of the staff, full-time member?
That was Lebo, man. Lebo for years, man. It's always, we always talked and we've always been close. And he's always said, hey, man, I really want you to, when you're done, help us out and continue on. And we had a good relationship, and he thought I was a good fit for the team, and I couldn't ask for a better home, man. And this is my team, and this is it's like a family, man. And I'll be here forever.
Of this particularly crazy stretch, what's the performance you're most proud of?
So many, and in this stretch, I think Poirier probably fought twice, finished both guys in the first round. That's impressive. Amanda is damn close to a title shot.
Yep.
Kimbo dug himself out of a grave. He was in big trouble and somehow ended up on top. There are many fights that, I'm proud of.
I got a kick out of that one, seeing you with Kimbo in that corner. I mean, what an experience that must have been. What was it like for you to be a part of, I don't say this disparagingly, but it's somewhat of a circus, right? I mean, this is Kimbo versus Ken and the bad blood and all that, and you're there and he gets taken down.
It was pretty wild, yeah.
Yeah, what was it like for you?
A lot of people watching, it's pretty crazy. And man, he got taken down right away. I mean, Ken was smart. Ken he didn't throw any punches. He was just like, boom, right to the takedown. So he fought very smart, but he battled out, and he battled out of like near death, man. He was like hooks in. Ken's trying to shoot the rear naked, but he kind of had it on top of the head, and he was a little loose, and Kimbo's got a lot of heart, man, and he just kept fighting, and then right when he got back to his feet, man, he drilled him with a wicked shot, that put a hole in Shamrock's head, man. You could see it, but you could see the bone. Oh, it was so deep. He had a hole in his head.
Any word on his next fight yet?
No, I don't know what's going on. He's been back in the gym since, man. He's starting to try to train, and that's his manager's role. But they're looking at something. I'm not certain. That's not my job.
And what about Amanda? It really felt like, I remember when she made her Strikeforce debut, I believe also in Nashville. She blew the doors off of Julia Budd in a matter of seconds. And, she's had a nice run, since then. A couple of stumbles here and there. But on Saturday against, super tough opponent, silver medalist in the Olympics, of course, Sarah McMahon, it really seemed like it all came together for her. Had that killer instinct. She looked fantastic. Why now does it seem like it's all coming together for Amanda?
I mean, I can't say for sure, but she's only been with us for the last couple fights.
Yeah.
But I'll say 100%, this is the first girl, I've ever seen in the gym where I looked and I was like, whoa, I've seen her literally stop guys in the gym. Beating dudes up, making guys quit. In the stand-up. And she's primarily a grappling background. But I've seen her make dudes quit, kickboxing in the gym. It's impressive.
What weight are these guys that she's fighting with?
25ers, 35ers, guys her size.
Okay.
I mean, they're not I'm not talking, Dustin Poirier or Mirsad Bektic, but professional fighters, that are very tough. That she's beaten up, and she can be mean too. She's getting after them, and guys are timid, and she's the alpha for sure. It's pretty crazy.
Is she ready for Ronda, in your opinion?
In my opinion, I think she is.
Really?
I think she is. I think her stand-up is light years ahead of Ronda's, but obviously, Ronda is super talented, the best. You have to you have to use good footwork and score and move and try to stay off the ground, because Ronda's a phenom on the ground. But I mean, I don't think Ronda's stand-up is Amanda's level.
So in your perfect world, does she fight once, twice more, or in your perfect world, if you're booking things, do you think, all right, let's put her in there, let's see how she does?
Man, I don't know, man. I'm not a manager,
But you're the coach.
I'm not a manager.
You know better than the
That's
manager.
The manager's call. I think she can always improve. I think that you get better with another fight. But I don't know what the right choice is. Do you take the risk of losing a fight? Because sometimes the better fighter doesn't always win. Sometimes you take a risk and somebody beats you that maybe you're better than, but you get caught. That happens all the time. So I think she can beat Ronda now, but I don't know. Maybe you try to build her a little more and get her a little more experience. But, I mean, she's more than capable.
A few months ago, Robbie Lawler said that one of the keys to his success as of late was less sparring. And last week on this show, Dustin Poirier echoed the same sentiment. Perhaps he does it a little more than Robbie, but said that he's definitely dialed back. Why is this being done at ATT, and do you subscribe to this theory as well? Do you feel like fighters should spar less?
Yeah, I mean, guys are still sparring, but they're not killing themselves, not going to war, you know, 2 or 3 times a week, maybe once, twice a week. I mean, those guys still spar. I mean, don't get me wrong. But, I mean, there was a big thing about Robbie where he said he wasn't sparring for years, right?
Yeah.
Where this was kind of a thing. But then lately he's been killing it. Obviously, he's the best fighter in the world at 170 pounds. And, I mean, he's sparring now.
He is.
So, I mean, I think it's all about finding balance.
Okay.
I mean, I think but once you're, especially when you're a higher level guy, you can back it off a little bit, I think.
So he's back to sparring?
Yeah, he spars.
Okay.
No doubt. But I think, I mean, there was a period where he didn't spar at all, you know, like for years.
Yeah.
And then I think when he came to ATT, he started sparring more. I mean, I think Kami Barzini runs most of his training. He's one of our you know, high-level coaches at the gym. He runs a lot of his sparring, and but he has some sparring. I mean, not a lot, and maybe he doesn't spar. He definitely doesn't spar when he doesn't have a fight coming up. But
yeah,
they know how to balance things. They balance very well.
Speaking of balancing, you know, injuries have plagued the sport for quite some time. As a coach and as a former fighter, have you kind of figured out what's the right amount of how you should push yourself for these fights? Because it seems like so many fights over the last 5 years have gone up in smoke because of an injury. How do you find that balance?
Yeah, I mean, that's a tricky thing. I think.
Are you guys evolving? Did you feel like it's evolving?
It is, but you get better by playing the game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The way you improve most is by playing the game. But by playing the game, there's a lot of injuries. So you got to play the game just enough not to get hurt and do enough drills, and then try to learn as much as you can with the drills, and then test it out by sparring, and then back to more drills. I mean, you need to do both. It's a tricky balance for sure.
But do you feel, you know, I've heard of a lot of fighters, including our last guest, who are now saying, you know, I need to be the center of focus. You know, I can't be a part of a big gym anymore because I get lost in the shuffle. It's too crowded, things like that. It needs to be more like boxing, you know, where the camp is built around me. How do you feel about that?
You know, I was listening to Luke say that. Yeah. I mean, there's different arguments. That can be true when you're in a small camp. You have all the coaches' attention, right? Like the coach is 100% on you. That's all, you know, the focus is. But you don't have the world-class sparring partners every day, many of them, who really, they'll find your holes. And, you know, that's what, you know, closes up any little hole or gap in your game. Like, say, if you're a wrestler, you know, if you're from a wrestler from a small state, that's me, man. I grew up in Maine. Shout out to all the maniacs out there.
Yes.
But yes, if you're from Maine, man, like it's hard. The level of competition is not super high. If you try to go to wrestle in Pennsylvania or go to Iowa University, you know, you just don't have that high level of guys around you all the time to push you. And that's the same with a small camp. You need like super high level guys pushing you, I think, finding your holes. Because then once they find the holes, you tighten them on your own. You don't even need a coach. You know, if a guy takes you down 5 times in a row with a double leg, you're going to figure a way on your own to stop that takedown. But if nobody's taking you down or nobody's cracking you with a straight right hand in training, you know, you think you're fine, but maybe you're not.
Can you give me a name of a youngster? He may not be in the UFC or Bellator, but someone that's climbing through the ranks at ATT that you are particularly excited about. It could be someone in the UFC, but someone that you've been working with that you think has champion in him, has superstar in him. Anyone come to mind?
yeah, if you talk about something like that, a guy that's, he's already kind of made it. Like Mursad Bektik is one of those guys, is a guy who everyone is really sure of, that everything's in line. He has the genetics, the capability, the drive, the will, like everything he needs to do it, and he's on the right path. So he's one of the guys that will be there.
Yeah, he's looked amazing.
Yeah, but he's already there. He's already in the UFC.
He's already there.
So, most of the guys that are on our team that should be there are there now, with the exception of Nate Coy is a guy who belongs there that's not in there. Nate Coy belongs in the UFC. And another young guy, Jamie Alvarez, is a 25-pounder who's a fight or two away. That's a guy who probably people don't know, but will be there in the future. Freaky strong, big, tall, all the strength or all the weight in the right places. Big dude for the weight. Track athlete as a high school kid, but super athlete, but newer to the game.
It's funny. Just a couple of days ago, I think it was actually Saturday before the Nashville card, I was flipping through the channels, and the best of WC comes on, and it's you versus Aldo. Of course, not a fight that you'd like to reminisce about, but that was at the height of your career and your run as featherweight champion. Did you have it? And it was amazing watching Aldo afterwards. He was incredibly emotional. I forgot how emotional he was. Did you have any idea that night that he would turn into the legend that he has become?
Well, that was the biggest stage, man. He was emotional because at the time that was the number one spot, man. That was the biggest championship in the world for 145 pounders. Yeah. So I'm sure, yeah, he was emotional because it was a big deal. Before the fight, I was very confident in my own skills. I thought I was going to kill him, but he's an animal, man. And he's I'm happy with his success, and I'm happy that he's still, doing so well. And, I wish him luck. But no, I'm always, everyone who I ever fight, win or lose, I always wish them the best. Yeah. Because I'd rather fight good guys than bad guys, so.
Well said. I love. Go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead. I'm done.
No. I was just going to say, I love that picture of you two in Brazil a couple weeks ago. That warmed my heart.
No, it was real, man. It was really cool to see him, man. I have a ton of respect for him, and I think he has mutual respect. He's a great fighter, man. I felt it in the cage, man. And you learn a lot from a guy when you fight him, but he's a super athlete. There was a couple of times I had a tight body lock on him where I thought for sure I would finish. Where normally I finish on a guy, he had really strong hips and I couldn't finish. I remember, for instance, he kind of like kneed me in the balls, and the ref was trying to he asked me if I was okay, and while Jose was asking me sorry, and while he was saying he was sorry, I tried to get a little cheap takedown off it, but he still got his balance back. I was like, oh, that bastard, he's a good athlete, man. I tried to cheat him a little bit.
Does Conor beat him?
I'm sorry, you broke up on me.
Does McGregor beat him?
Oh, no. I think Aldo I think Aldo beats him. Obviously, McGregor poses some problems. I think maybe one of the bigger problems, he's a southpaw, which takes away a lot of the outside leg kick, which Aldo is great at. He'll still have kicks there, but the outside leg kick is one of his best weapons, takes that away. There's a little height advantage. But I think Aldo is the superior fighter, is the better athlete, and still wins the fight. But McGregor is no joke. Big power and great with range. He's a great athlete and one of the best fighters out there. But Aldo is a better fighter.
Final question. Now that we have officially closed the book on your fighting career, what's the moment that sticks out? Your favorite moment in an MMA fight, cage, ring, whatever, gym, out of the gym? What's the moment that sticks out?
I mean, for me, there's three moments. The three title fights that I won. In the WEC, those were the three biggest fights. The two with Faber and the one with Leonard. He knows for the number one spot, man, and they were all exciting and great fights. The finish with the knockout of Uriah, the submission of Leonard, and then the decision of Uriah in the second fight. I think they kind of cemented my legacy. It was a lot of they replayed those fights a lot, so they got a lot of airtime, and I think they did me well.
Yeah, well, what a time that was. The journey to get to that point, and then your dominance there at 145 was amazing. I loved it. It actually coincided with the beginning of my MMA journalism career, especially working for Versus at the time. So that was a lot of fun to cover and be a part of. And I'm so happy to see this transition into coaching going so well for you. It's a lot of fun to always see you at the events or see you, behind the scenes there in the corner. And I know you don't want to be a professional cornerman, but it's clear, given the success of your fighters, that you are doing something and many things right over there. And I know you're a part of a big team. A lot of people deserve credit, but very happy for you. Thank you so much, Mike, for the time. Congratulations on the win this past weekend and this success over the last few weeks. And enjoy your time home for a little bit. Take a load off, put your feet up, and I'll see you at the next event.
For sure. Thanks, Larry. I'll take care, man.
All right, there he is. Mike Brown, former WC featherweight champion, and a man who has turned into a very, very good MMA coach, a tremendous MMA coach. And like I said, one of the good guys in this sport. So very happy for his success and the success that the entire team over at ATT is experiencing these days. Because, that is a legendary team, one of the very best in this sport, a top 2, top 3 team out there, no doubt about it, and filled with just great guys. That's the biggest takeaway from ATT. Anytime you see those guys, they're just all such great guys. Very nice to be around. So congratulations to both him and the team. Okay, one more guest to go this week. Very interesting one. It was announced this morning that the great Amir Khan, 2-time former world champion boxer, has entered the world of mixed martial arts. How about that? Super interesting stuff. And Amir Khan, King Khan, joins us right now on the MMA Hour. Amir, are you there?
I'm good. Yeah, how are you guys doing? Thanks for the nice introduction.
Oh, yeah, my pleasure. What a pleasure it is to have you on this show, Amir. Thank you so much. So you have entered the world of MMA. What's going on? What are you doing?
Well, yeah, MMA, obviously, I really believe MMA is a growing sport. Obviously, now I've joined a company which is Super Fight League, based in India. But now we are going out to other countries around the world. We've had shows in the likes of Dubai, and now hopefully get to trying to secure a good deal in the States, in America. And, because I think in America is where you need to be. Just like my boxing career, how it took me to America and how I have all the big fights over there. When you start to have a big events in America, I think you become a global star yourself. And that's what America brings to the table. And that's what I want to do is SFL, being a part owner of SFL. I want to give the young, up-and-coming talent, a chance. Let them showcase their skills on a big network. So hopefully that's what SFL is going to bring to the table. And hopefully in 2016, I'm looking at doing 52 events around the world.
52?
Sorry?
52?
52, yeah, or 52 plus, yeah. I want to do 52 events around the world. So I'm going to be keeping myself very busy, including, my own boxing events I'm going to be doing around the world as well, with all the fighting and everything else.
Did you reach out to them to be a part of this, or did they reach out to you?
A bit of both, really, because, obviously being a British Pakistani, I heard about this SFL, and it was only next door to Pakistan. It was in India. So then I got a few friends who said to me that, look, would you want to be involved in it in some way? And I said, why not? Obviously, I'm a big fan of MMA. I like MMA, and I've trained alongside the likes of GSP, Ondrilovsky, and them guys, and I've always liked the way the MMA setup is, the concept. So I said, look, let me see what we can do. So I met the CEO, which is Bill Dosanjh. We had a chat with him, and then we got it all done. I'm a part owner now, and hopefully I'm going to try to take it to a different level. Obviously, we know how big UFC is and all these other companies like Bellator, but we slowly getting there. SFL is getting there now. obviously, if you look on with the YouTube hits, we like third on the table. We get a lot of viewers who view us around the world, and we just based in India. It was a small company that we based in India, and now it's known around the world. So Super Fight League's coming to America very soon, hopefully, and we can get something done there.
Any chance they convince you to actually have an MMA fight?
Yeah, that's something they spoke about. I mean, the CEO, Bill, did say to me, look, how about you going in the cage one day? But look, boxing pays me well. Boxing is, I love the boxing. It'll be very hard for me to be, I don't think I'll ever do that. It's a little bit, I don't think my mum would like to see me in a cage fighting. Obviously, she hates me boxing, let alone being MMA fight. So I don't think I'd ever do that. But you never know. Look, I'm a fighter. I'm a born fighter. You just never know. I might just one day say, okay, I'm going to pack the gloves up and I'm going to go into the cage.
Oh.
So you just never know.
So you're not closing the door on this?
Well, no, not really. I'm not going to close the door. You never know, honestly. I'm a born fighter. I'm a fighter. So obviously, you just never know what can happen. One day I might just say, okay, I want to go in the cage and I want to fight. I just love I love all the grappling and everything that happens in cage fighting and the technique and everything, because in a boxing fight there's not much grappling, whereas in an MMA fight there's a lot of floor work, a lot of grappling, and at the same time I'm a good puncher myself. I'm a good boxer, so if someone tries to, at least I've got the advantage. If I work a little bit on my grappling, you just never know, I might go in the cage next.
So I know that, there are some boxers out there who have, taken this stance, anti-MMA stance. There's this rivalry, but you've been a little different. You've always been complimentary of the British boxers. And back in the day, UFC 70, didn't you sit next to Dana White at that event in 2007?
That's right, yeah, I was there. I was in Manchester. The event was in Manchester. I was sat next to Dana White. Not having a clue then who Dana was or how big MMA would have been. Obviously, I was just a little boy. I must have been about 18 years old. And that was the show when Mike Tyson was there as well. Mike Tyson was there. He was at the event at the same time. I was sat in between Mike Tyson and Dana White. But looking back at it now, I was sat with two great people. But I did take some pictures. I've got some pictures of that time. And that was so many years ago. And look how big MMA has grown since.
Yeah, it's amazing. So good to have you a part of the sport. I'm excited about this. Now, let me ask you a few questions because the timeline here is very interesting. Last week, I got to be honest, not even knowing that you were going to be a part of MMA and SFL and be on this show in particular, you were the first person I thought of when the news came out that Mayweather is going to fight Berto. I was like, man, what does Amir Khan have to do to get this fight? Yeah. It's unbelievable. What was your reaction when you heard the news?
Exactly. Tell me about it, man. Honestly, it's so frustrating to be in the position I'm in now. Mayweather at first said to me, look, Amir, you have to prove yourself in the 140-pound division and the 147-pound division, which I did. I went and fought the 3 top 10 guys and beat them convincingly. Look really good in it. Now it come up and I said to Mayweather, look, let's get the fight done. I just think he refused me this time again. So I've been chasing Mayweather 3 times, but I really believe Mayweather thinks I would beat him, and he definitely is scared. I mean, that's the reason this fight isn't happening. I really know how to beat. I have the blueprint how to beat someone like Floyd Mayweather. You need speed, movement, and I know people always go back to the Manny Pacquiao fight because Manny Pacquiao also has speed and power. But what Manny Pacquiao doesn't have, what Amir Khan has, is size. I think you need to be physically bigger than Floyd Mayweather as well, which I am. And I think with Floyd knowing all these advantages I have, he's probably thinking, I've probably got 1 or 2 fights left in my career. Do I really need a hard fight to finish the sport with? Also, he gave all the fight fans the fight they wanted, which was him and Manny Pacquiao. Obviously, he beat Manny Pacquiao comfortably, but he fought Manny Pacquiao 5 years later. I mean, and at the same time, Manny had lost a few fights and also been knocked out, and he's getting older. Mayweather's very smart that way, and I think, that's one of the reasons he just doesn't want to fight me. He's a businessman. He's afraid. He knows he'll get beat, so he's thinking, do I really need someone like Amir Khan?
So
financially, he'll make a lot of money.
Yeah.
But I don't know what it is.
So have you given up on this dream? Do you think, given those reasons, you'll never get a chance to fight him?
Well, yeah, I think so. I mean, I just hope that, it happens one day. But I'd never like to always say what would have happened if Amir Khan fought Mayweather. Obviously, I know deep down I beat the guy, but what would have happened realistically? What would have happened? That's always going to be back of my mind if the fight never happens. So, and I'm sure there's a lot of boxing fans around the world who think the same thing. You've got people like Sugar Ray Leonard. You've got people like Tommy Hearns, you've got Mike Tyson, all saying Floyd Mayweather should fight Amir Khan, but Floyd just doesn't seem to want it. So, obviously, look, if it's not Floyd Mayweather, we have to go to Plan B, see who else is out there. Maybe a fight between me and Manny Pacquiao. There's talks about that fight happening in somewhere in the UAE. So we're just waiting on Al Heyman, see what he gets done. Obviously, being on the same team as Al Heyman, I thought it'd make it much easier to get the Mayweather fight because he also advises Mayweather. But at the end of the day, Mayweather's the boss and he's going to make decisions, and I think he just doesn't want to fight Amir Khan.
So, this is an issue that is somewhat foreign in the world of mixed martial arts because, as you know, it's more, these organizations and there are matchmakers and there are a couple examples here or there, but for the most part, it's hard to avoid the big-time fights. Do you prefer the way MMA is structured as opposed to boxing where it's almost like Floyd has this lottery ticket and he gets to choose who gets to, do the dance with him?
Yeah. That's what me and Bill DeSantis were talking about, was the CEO of Super Fight League. We were talking about giving the fight fans the fights they want to see. Now, with boxing, we're not getting that because there's a lot of fighters avoiding each other. Like, for example, my own issue with Mayweather not getting a fight. But with MMA, I respect it because the best have to fight the best. And that's what I love about it. And that's what the fight fans always go to those stadiums and they're always going to be full. And wherever they fight, they're going to be full because people like to watch real fights. They like to see 50-50 fights. And that's what MMA and what Super Fight League is going to bring to the table as well. So, yeah, I wish it was like MMA, but obviously, maybe one day it will be. We can just, I just leave it to my advisor, Al Heyman. Hopefully he can get me the right fight and the big fights I want.
Given your history with Manny Pacquiao as a training partner and, of course, Freddie Roach, do you think that makes them more likely to want to fight you or less likely?
I think, me and Manny Pacquiao used to have good spars. 50-50 they used to be. And then towards the end, I used to get probably the better of Manny Pacquiao as I got a little older and a little bigger. I think business-wise, it makes sense to make the fight. Obviously, me and Manny are... former stablemate and sparring partners and friends. Business-wise, it makes sense having the same trainer, Freddie Roach, so we know of each other. But one thing about me is I've changed a lot in my style and my fighting style, being with Virgil Hunter, my new trainer. I've changed a lot as a fighter, whereas Manny Pacquiao is still the same fighter as he was because he's always been with Freddie Roach. Having a change of trainers isn't a bad thing. I think it's helped me a lot because, I've changed up a few things, and every trainer is different. And I think, it'd make the fight interesting, though. Obviously, both of us have big hearts, huge hearts, and have a lot of hand speed and skills. So that'll be an amazing fight.
Do you hold any ill will towards Freddie? I know you guys have gone back and forth through the press. Is there some animosity still there?
Never. I mean, I've always said nice things about him. Honestly, I've always been nice and said good things. Look, I needed a change in my life, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think with most fighters, it could be MMA fighters or it could be boxing fighters. Sometimes a change makes you a better fighter. It makes you more serious and makes you work on new things and new strategies and how to, and gives you new game plans. And obviously it just brings that love back into the sport again. Since I've been with Virgil Hunter, I've loved boxing again, and he's teaching me new things that I'd never learned before. So that hunger's coming back again. Whereas Freddie Roach, obviously, I was with him for 5 years, and obviously in 5 years I was, I did learn a lot with him. He got me to become two-time world champion. But I didn't walk away. I was the one who sat down with Freddie Roach and said to him, look, Freddie, I think I'm going to move on. I'm going to move trainers, and I respect what you've done for me. And I just want to, obviously, I wanted it up in the air. Last thing I wanted to do was him reading it in a newspaper or on articles saying, Amir, Freddie. I met him myself face to face and said to him, that, look, maybe in the future we'll work together again. But I think at this moment in time, I want to, maybe make a change.
So, when I announced that you were going to be on this show, we have a lot of people who listen in the UK and around the UK, and the number one question that I received was, ask him about Kell Brook. Is he going to fight him?
Yeah, Kell Brook. Yeah, I've just I just did a statement in the UK that I'd like to fight Kell Brook. I'll do it, and hopefully if that fight could be made next year in the summer, outdoor stadium, maybe Wembley Stadium or something. I think that'd be massive. So yeah, I think that's a good idea, maybe having that fight one day. But not this year. Let's do it in summer, where it's going to be even bigger.
So have you not said that you want to see him go out and fight a big name or two and then fight you, because then the fight will be bigger?
Yes, I did say that. The fight could be massive globally with Kell Brook. But the thing is with Kell Brook now, if he's not going to go out there and fight these big names, then obviously I'll have to just take the fight. Because I get a lot of criticism from people saying that I'm scared of him. I'm not scared of him. I just want him to prove himself. Now, God forbid, if you look at it on a different angle now, if he does go out and fight these big names like the likes of Maidana, Bradley, Pacquiao, and he gets beat, then he's only going to make the fight smaller. It's not going to make the fight as big as it is now. So let's just give him that benefit of doubt that, he's a good fighter and we're going to go in there. But we'll go in there, we'll take the title away from him, we'll beat him, and then we'll see what happens after that, yeah.
So what's the perfect scenario for you? Because you're not getting Floyd, obviously. Manny, it might be some time, of course, because he's coming off surgery. I know you've wanted the rematch against, Garcia or Peterson. What do you want? And I know you fought not that long ago, right here in Brooklyn. Yeah. What is the perfect scenario, the opponent, and when?
I think the best scenario for me would be, to leave it to my team. I'm going to leave to Al Heyman. I've said to him that, look, I want to fight the big names in boxing. It could be the Thurmans out there. It could be the Garcia rematch, Peterson rematch. But, saying one thing is, and a lot of these other fighters say the same thing. They'll fight anyone. But when it comes down to it, they never want to sign that contract. And I think I'm probably one of the only fighters out there who will fight anyone to put in front of me. So I'm just going to leave it to my advisor, Al Heyman, and see what he does and what decision he makes and who he thinks I should be fighting.
Do you like the PBC format?
I think PBC is good, yeah. Obviously, PBC is different. Obviously, I like the way it's a little different in a way where you walk out of the ring and you're on your own. All the lights are on the fighter.
Yeah.
Normally I've walked out the boxing ring and you've got like 100 people around you and you can't even breathe. You're getting squashed as walking into the ring. But I think PBC is good. It's new. It's different. It makes the fighter a bigger name. It gives the fighter a value. So yeah, I think it's a great idea what Al Heyman's done.
Will your next fight be for PBC?
Yeah, I think it will be again. Yeah, obviously I'm with Al Heyman and the team, so yeah, I think it probably will be. Yeah, we want to grow PBC, and obviously PBC is growing now. And one thing about the PBC, what I love about it is the best are fighting the best. There's no hiding. So there's one little group of fighters in PBC who have to fight each other. If you want to be a top name and you want to be on top, I think you have to fight each other. So that's what I love about it.
But did you sit down with Al and say, look, man, I'm with you. Why couldn't you get me the Mayweather fight? I thought I was going to get it because I was aligned with you. Did you ask him that?
Yeah.
What did he say?
Yeah, I know, man. I mean, look, what Al Heyman said to me is Mayweather's his own boss, and he makes decisions, and he just doesn't seem to want it this time. So, I mean, what can I do? Honestly, I can only hope the fight happens, and I think Mayweather, like I said, deep down knows that Amir Khan would give him a good run for his money. Also, on top of that, if you think financially, how big is Amir Khan? My last fight in America was on free television. It was one of the highest viewed fights in the last 10 years in boxing on free television. And then what I bring to the table, Mayweather's all about money. He goes, he wants the big purses in his boxing fights in Korea. I bring big money to the table. The UK revenue, the Dubai revenue, the Pakistan, India. The population is huge on that part of the world, and people like in India and Pakistan who don't even know who Floyd Mayweather is would know then who Floyd Mayweather is. So it's going to be good for his popularity. So, but he just doesn't seem interested. I bring a lot more to the table than any other fighter he's faced in his past few fights, apart from Manny Pacquiao, obviously. But obviously Mayweather just, like I said, it just must be he's afraid.
Does Berto stand a chance?
Berto's a friend of mine. We train together in the gym. I think anyone in a fight stands a chance. You know, we've seen it in MMA, we've seen it in boxing. The best sometimes get beat. It takes that one punch. So I think, yes, he does have a chance. I'm sure he's training, training hard. So, yeah, I think he has got a chance.
But you don't pick him at the end of the day, right?
No. I'm gonna be on it. I'm gonna be in his corner. I want to be supporting him. I'm gonna be helping him if I can in any way. But I just hope he does it. I mean, he can pull it off. Now you have to remember, Mayweather's getting old now. You just don't know when it's your time. I mean,
right.
You know, he's maybe overnight you can get very old, and it might happen to Mayweather where it's the best time to catch him. So, you know, Berto has decent speed. He's a little shorter than Mayweather, but obviously he's quick. He has decent power. So yeah, you just never know. This is boxing. Yeah, one punch can change a fight, and Berto does have that power.
Well, what a pleasure this has been, Amir. Really great having you on the show. Again, welcome to the world of mixed martial arts. And just a little business advice. As owner of SFL, I mean, Amir Khan making his MMA debut, that's big business, my friend. You'll make a lot of money doing that.
You think so?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, the phone calls are going to go off now. You're the first person I've said that to, so the phone calls are going to start going off like crazy. But at the moment, I'm gonna just keep the boxing going strong. And you never know, I might have my first fight on SFL.
Ooh.
In a couple of years' time.
All right. Well, I wish you the best with the new venture. Good luck, of course, in your fighting career in the ring. Good luck getting those big time fights. And it was great to have you once again on the show for the first time. This was a real treat. Thank you.
Guys.
All right, there he is, Amir King Khan, now entering the world of MMA. He is a part owner of the Super Fight League. Remember the Super Fight League when they burst onto the scene a couple of years ago? Focused very much on India, but now it sounds like they want to expand. They got a big name behind them, and who knows? I mean, could you imagine Amir Khan making his MMA debut? That's a pretty big deal. I doubt he's doing it right now. Still very young, still 28 years old. It's unbelievable. 28 years old, Amir Khan. It feels like he's been around forever. I remember the Tough 10 finale? Tough 10 finale. I purchased an internet European stream of Amir Khan versus Dmitry Salita. I believe this was December of 2010. I was big into Dmitry Salita, the Orthodox Jew from Brooklyn. He had climbed through the ranks. Great documentary on him called Orthodox Stance. Really good. And this was his big chance. His big fight was going to be against Amir Khan. December 5th, 2009. What's with that date? December 5th. Keeps coming up on today's show. Anyway, he gets this big opportunity. It's in Newcastle, and he gets knocked out in 1 minute 16 seconds. And that pretty much was it for Dmitry Salita. You look at his record, though. He has done what was asked of him. Defeated Chris Algieri, Devin Alexander, Luis Collazo. He's won, 5 in a row? Yeah, 5 in a row since losing to both Danny Garcia and Lamont Peterson, and yet he can't get that fight. I would much prefer seeing Amir Khan versus Floyd Mayweather than Berto Mayweather. Give me Edson Berto versus Floyd Mayweather, not Andre Berto. But alas, he did not get that fight. How about the MMA Hour, venturing into the world of boxing? Thank you very much to the great Micah Framwitz for hooking us up with Mr. Khan. We have gone way over time. We need to answer some questions. So, Mr. New York Rick, are you back? Have you decided to grace us with your presence on this Monday?
Is here.
Oh, there he is, the Samurai King himself, New York Rick, back from his time off last week. We certainly did not miss you. I think that you put a hex on our show last week, but we turned the tables on you because you tried to pull the plug on the show just 10 minutes to go before we went live last week. Our live stream went out, but then the geniuses back here, they turned on a dime. They got us on YouTube, and we haven't looked back since. So your efforts were futile, my friend.
I think all we need to do is look at how the show started out without me, and that's all that needs to be said.
You tried to throw us a curveball, but here we are, defiant as ever. No time to waste. Let's get to the questions.
First question, next for Glover. After his relatively dominant performance against OSP, who do you think Glover should fight next?
It's a very good question. First of all, I love the way they promoted Glover's fight. He took John Jones the distance. Did you notice that?
Of course.
It was great. It was brilliant marketing. What's next for Mr. Teixeira? Let me look it up. Do you have any ideas?
Somebody later in the question suggested a rematch with Rampage if Rampage can win his next fight, and then
I don't even want to consider Rampage at the moment because he does have some legal troubles that need to be addressed. So what's the point? Let's see. What about the winner of Jimmy Manuwa Rumble Johnson? Timing works. That's
great.
That's the fight.
I like that.
You know, a fight that was discussed. Tell me your thoughts on this. When Bader, what happened here? Okay, when they moved, I forget my timeline. But anyway, it was discussed to book Glover Teixeira versus Pat Cummins, and then it didn't happen at the 11th hour. Is Pat ready for that?
Not in my opinion. But
after the big win over Feijão, too soon? I think it's a bit too soon.
That said, I think it's too soon. That said, I don't think it's unreasonable. I think you could make the case that he earned at least the shot. I don't think he would win that fight, but I think he's at least deserving of an opportunity. If Glover
what about Shogun?
That's a good one, but I don't know. I do like the winner of Manuwa Rumble though.
Yeah,
I think that's the one that makes the most sense.
Yeah.
Michael Johnson, do you think that despite the controversial loss, Michael Johnson will be treated like he earned a victory and receive a top fighter in his next fight? If so, who do you think he should fight next?
Yes, absolutely, because even Dana White was complaining and saying that it was a horrible decision. Look, this is what you get when you assign Doug Crosby. When are we going to learn? Someone told me that Tennessee is the last one on that train, so hopefully. I mean, it wasn't just him, of course, but
are we sure that Doug Crosby was the one who didn't?
Yeah, he scored it for Dariush.
Okay.
And another judge did as well. If you want the name, I'll get it. I believe it was Sal D'Amato or Sal D'Amato. Everyone says his name differently. Anyway, he was the one that scored it for Johnson.
I asked
rightfully
because
so.
You know, in the last one, the Iaquinta and Masvidal, Crosby was actually the one who scored it how everybody else thought it should have been scored. So
blind squirrel, not that whole thing.
Yeah, you know, sometimes he's the dissenter in the right way, but I guess in this case, you know, he got it wrong as well
it was
as somebody
Richard
else.
Beltran.
Who got it correct?
No, who scored it for Dariush. The one who got it right was Sal.
There he is.
But who do you think won?
Clearly, Michael Johnson won that fight.
Yeah.
He won the first 2 rounds, and then he lost the 3rd round.
It was kind of easy.
It was one of the easier fights to score. There wasn't so much of a you know, the striking was relatively equal in terms of numbers, but when you see, you know, the forward pressure from Johnson and you see who's landing the crisper, harder strikes, he knocked him down in round 1. You know, fortunately, everybody scored round 1 for Michael Johnson, which, you know, is not always a guarantee. But clearly, he won the 2nd round as well.
You know what I'd like to see? Let's see once and for all. No, this is not going to work. I was going to say first. I was going to say Poirier, but he's booked. I think that would be fun. And then I was going to say Masvidal, but he's in 170, of course. There's no real... Because Ferguson, I think, is going to get a bigger name. Benson... They were going back and forth, but I feel like Benson's next fight will be at 170. Maybe it's Benson.
I'd like to see that fight still.
So even coming off the loss.
And I want to see Benson at 170, but I'd like to see Michael Johnson versus Benson Henderson.
Does Dariush's stock not go up here? Because we all consider it a loss?
I don't think he loses anything, because even though, you know, we consider that he lost his fight, it seemed like as the fight was going on, he was the one who was coming on stronger. The end of round 2 and the start of round 3, it seemed like Dariush could have made this his fight. So I don't think he loses much against the game Michael Johnson.
Yeah, I wonder where they go.
I think this is one of them where both guys ended up looking pretty decent, and Michael Johnson clearly won 2 rounds out of the 3.
Yeah.
If it went longer, I don't think that, you know, it necessarily would have played out the same way. I think Dariush was looking a little fresher. But it was a 3-round fight, and he won 2 rounds.
By the way,
no doubt about it.
I owe the flying judoka an apology. Robert Whiteford wanted me to ask Mike Brown about haggis.
Oh, God.
I ran out of time. Why are you rolling your eyes at Robert Whiteford? He'd go over there and slap you silly, son.
What does that even mean?
He always says son at the end of his sentences. I think that's a Scottish thing. Anyway, he wanted me to ask Mike Brown about hunting haggis, and I told him I would, and I forgot. It's not so much I forgot, I remembered, but I ran out of time. The show went a little long, so I apologize.
Unified rules. How can we as fans enact change to the rules with the governing MMA bodies? Brendan Schaub said it best on his podcast when he brought up the fact that if things like this Johnson fight happened in any other major sport, changes would be made. Schaub was originally referring to his loss against Arlovsky. The point is, if a ref or judge screwed up a basketball game and got it wrong, commissions would be involved. I don't know if commissions, but the NBA's regulatory bodies would be involved. Hearings would take place and new rules would be in place quickly. Who would we as fans pressure to make these changes? The New Jersey State Athletic Commission originally decided the unified rules. Nevada Athletic Commission is either the means.
I'm assuming you don't watch regular sports all that often because there are horrible calls all the time that affect games and nothing happens. Sometimes they'll make a statement.
They'll make a retraction,
but they don't like drastically change the rules. The thing about MMA that is so tricky is that it's so subjective. It's more like figure skating than the NBA, the NFL. I mean, the referee really, there's no clear-cut set of rules when he has to step in. Of course, when someone taps, it's pretty clear, but if you're Steve Mazzagatti, not so clear all the time, or Husimar Palhares for that case. But, when there's a TKO, look at the Derek Brunson fight. There were some people who was like, oh, Alvey. Personally, I thought that was a good stoppage, but you could make the case for, the thing lasting a little longer. Same with Joe Lozon a couple of weeks ago. So it's very subjective. And then it comes to the judging part of things, and that's also equally subjective. I don't foresee anyone, this gets back to the whole, 10-point must system debate. Is it for MMA? Is it more of a boxing model? I mean, this is something that has been talked about. Here's the one thing I know for a fact that I can sit here and say 100% with the utmost confidence. This debate, this argument, this discussion is not going anywhere. This is going to be a part of MMA until MMA is no more, which hopefully never happens. It's just the nature of the sport. It's just the way it is, more so than even in boxing or any other combat sport, in my opinion. So, yes, little things will be changed here and there, and this is not me trying to say don't try to make it as good as possible, as accurate as possible, but it's just the way the sport is constructed and the way it's officiated.
Rafael Natal and Uriah Hall. Is Uriah Hall versus Rafael Natal one of the best beefs in MMA right now that is flying under the radar? Is it time to have a rematch sooner rather than later because of the outcome of the first match and the words back and forth?
Are they still going back and forth?
Not sure, but I wouldn't mind seeing it again.
Yeah, I guess.
With how close the first one was and if there's still some heat there.
I want to see once and for all, is Uriah, I know he's coming off a loss, but who is Uriah Hall? First of all, I feel like he's
coming off a win.
No. Prior to that, he lost to Natal. Prior to that, well, my point is it always feels like he has a win over a late replacement guy that we haven't heard of, or some sort of change in his fight, and then he'll have a stumble, and then he'll come back and look amazing. I don't know who he is as a fighter. His ceiling is. You know what I'm saying?
I just think he's going to be that guy. I don't think we will know that.
He'll just be that guy. He'll be a Rafael Natal.
Yeah. Which is why this matchup is perfect.
Nah, I don't want to see it again. We just saw it 3 months ago.
Condit versus Lawler. Is this one of those rare occasions that no one is really complaining that Condit is getting a title shot over Hendricks because of the type of fight we know Robbie and Carlos are bound to have?
I kind of have a problem with this one. I hate to say. I saw a lot of people in the media, too, cheerleading about this fight. He did lose to Tyron Woodley and Johnny Hendricks. So, are we just going all in on this entertainment thing or what? I mean, how do you justify this fight? Go ahead. Justify it.
It's going to be a good fight.
It's going to be a great fight. But as far as a title fight...
who other than you has talked about the Alexander Gustafsson title fight more?
I've talked about it a lot.
Yeah. So why would you expect differently? This is
this is a new era.
Yeah, this is the environment we're in. So,
okay, so
Condit's title shot is no different than any other one.
It's interesting. Originally, we thought that this was going to be in a 55,000-seat stadium in Melbourne, their big debut there. Big sports town, and more than a town, big sports city, and they wanted to, come out with a big bang. But the UFC has yet to acknowledge this card and this fight in particular because they don't have a venue yet. At least last time I spoke to them a couple of days ago. So I'm curious, can this headline a 55,000-seat stadium? I don't know about that.
I mean, it depends on the rest of the card, but it's on its way to being pretty solid. I mean, that's a good start. But I don't think on its own it can do it.
Mano y mano, it's an amazing fight. It's one we've talked about. It's going to be fun. The worst part about this fight isn't the fact that you can make the case that Carlos doesn't deserve a title shot because he lost to Hendricks and Woodley. That's not the worst part about this. It's that for the next 3 months, we're going to have to hear all these people talk about violence. Oh, the violence. Think about the violence. That's the worst part. That's the part I hate. That's instant blockage right there if you talk about that.
I'm okay with it. We had this debate a little bit last time when we were talking about Robbie and Rory. Hendricks versus Woodley. This fight is such a great matchup, and I'm glad it got added to 192. It's so hard to see how this fight will go. How do you see this one playing out, and who's your winner? I don't know what the difference between those two questions is, but...
Well, I mean, you can say, how do you see it playing out in an event? You can say it's a decision. Okay, that's how it plays out, and then my winner. So I don't think you need to be so rude to Zach Super 7. Why don't you tell us how it's going to play out and who's going to be the winner?
I see Hendricks ultimately being able to avoid the big power shots from Woodley and mixing up his game a little better in terms of takedowns and striking and ultimately getting the decision.
You know what I'm really curious about with this one? Is Hendricks going to be motivated? He was supposed to fight for the belt. He takes the Brown fight. He didn't want this fight. He was very open about that. It's not that far away. It's in less than 2 months. Is he going to be motivated? He's not with Dolce. Is he going to push himself? It's got to be disheartening, right? It's got to be disheartening when you see a guy that you beat jump over you. When you had the title shot and you took another fight in your adopted hometown, essentially.
But he's going to get a title shot if he wins this.
Yeah, but is he going to be motivated to go through this guy who he has a history with?
I think if ever there was a time to get motivated, it'll be now.
Yeah, but sometimes you can get pissed. I'm just saying. I'm just throwing it out there.
That's fair. But, before it was up in the air. It was hazy. Nobody was being guaranteed a title shot. If he wins this, I mean, it's almost assured.
Well, when he took the Brown fight, he was like, all right, I'm taking this fight, but if I win, I'm getting a title shot. I mean, sure, he was saying it himself and no one else, but I think he fully expected to get the winner of Robbie if he won that fight, which he did, rather convincingly.
Amanda Nunes, I've always thought she would be the one to challenge Rousey.
Oh.
This fighter is scary good. She should have beat Kat Zingano, but I think she can destroy Miesha Tate and give Rousey her toughest match. Do you think there's a chance the UFC will make this fight, as no one, including me, wants to see Miesha get armbarred for the 3rd time and make her the gatekeeper for the division for the rest of her career?
I don't know about that, but can I just say something? I feel like all of a sudden things are really interesting for Ronda Rousey because, as I was saying to Dave Meltzer, all these people are finding out about her for the first time. So that's why the Miesha Tate fight is acceptable, even though we've seen it twice already. Amanda looked fantastic on Saturday. There's still the Holly Holm fight out there. I don't want to see her next. Probably not even in 2 fights, but it's still lingering. Juliana Pena, there's a great story there. She has a big fight against Jessica Ai. Holy moly, that's a big one in Houston. Let's see what happens there. But if she wins that one, she's probably 1 or 2 away, max. Of course, there's the Cyborg thing. I mean, she has more options than a lot of other champions out there.
Now, are these truly options, or
they're options? They're sellable opponents. More so, in my opinion. Look, Betch Correa was tremendously sellable as far as what she was saying and the trash talk, but skill set wise, these are all tougher, in my opinion, than Betch Correa.
That's fair, but I don't think they're sellable outside of Ronda Rousey versus anybody being sellable.
Well, can I just say that Ronda Rousey versus this Orangeman doll is sellable at this point?
That's my point. I don't think any of these are particularly
I'd be excited
worthy
to see Amanda
challengers.
Nunes. I think in a perfect world, Amanda Nunes gets a couple more fights. But man, that was super impressive. You don't do that to Sarah McMahon. I'm excited to see that. I'm really excited to see how Juliana Pena looks against Jessica Ai. That's really interesting to me. Holly's progression is something to watch. There's stuff out there. And, of course, she's going to do a movie after this next fight, so let's not forget that will allow the division. Here's the worst part about Demetrius Johnson and his dominance. He's too damn active. He's the most reliable guy in the UFC, most reliable fighter. So he fights so often, wants to get right back in there, that it doesn't allow, unfortunately, for the division to catch up to him. Ronda doing these movies sometimes isn't the worst thing in the world.
Tito Ortiz talking about offers of a fight at Cowboy Stadium for Cyborg, truly or not, gets fans' hopes and expectations up, and in turn makes them put pressure on Dana to make it happen, thus putting Cyborg in a stronger position than I would have thought. In your opinion, does Tito help or hinder Cyborg in trying to make the Rousey fight?
I think it's a non-factor, to be honest. I think that fight is too big to have anyone kind of ruin it. I don't think the UFC is even calling Tito Ortiz. This is Tito, in my opinion, smartly, by the way, injecting himself into that discussion. Great, he got a lot of press. But I don't think the UFC is calling Tito to negotiate this fight. She has a manager. You know his name. I know his name. We all know his name. George, is it Prasian?
Yep.
There you go. They're calling him. They're talking to him. They're talking to Lockhart. They're talking to those people. Tito is, I guess, a part of the team, but they don't need to call him to negotiate. So I don't really think he might be a thorn in Dana's side or the UFC side, but I don't think he hurts it at all.
What are your predictions for the outcomes of the Nevada Athletic Commission's hearings of Anderson Silva and Nick Diaz, which are due to take place this week?
Well, Nick Diaz is not going to take place because of his... last I heard, they asked for a continuance because his lawyer has a scheduling conflict that day, so they're going to hopefully delay this one more month at least. Prediction for Anderson, I saw Anderson in Brazil, and they were confident that there are some inaccuracies in his drug test results. They went all into it. I won't get into it here, but they're confident. And then I spoke to Bob Bennett of Nevada Athletic Commission. He said he's confident of his test results. So we'll see. The good news is finally we're going to get some kind of resolution to this because, I want to see where Anderson stands. When's he coming back? When's he going to fight? What kind of punishment, if any, is he going to receive? This thing is airing. It starts 9 a.m. Pacific on Thursday, which is a bit of a problem because we do the MMA Beat live. So I need to figure out what we're going to do about that. That's on Fight Pass, by the way. And also, speaking of Fight Pass, good segue here. I'm told that you can watch UFC 189 on Fight Pass right now. It is free and clear. So if you missed that one, definitely worth checking out. Of course, legendary.
Okay, moving over to Twitter. Rory went from being hated for his safe style to being hailed as a warrior. Is this the best turnaround ever?
I don't know. I'd say that I always found it very confusing when people would hate on Rory MacDonald, the interview. I love Rory MacDonald, the interview. I could talk to him all day. I find him to be fascinating. I think anyone, especially in the media, who complains about having to speak to Rory or the stuff he does or doesn't give you isn't doing their job. It's on you. It's not on him. Rory's great.
I think this pertains more to initially he was somebody who hid behind the jab a little bit and fought what some would call safe fights.
In that respect. Yeah.
And now he's, this guy that is the champion of quote unquote violence. That I know you don't like that, but that fight with Robbie was completely out of character for what those people might have assumed about Rory MacDonald.
He said it himself. Next fight, they'll hate on him.
Yeah.
Fans are fickle.
It's it is an interesting shift though, because I think he does now have this reputation, and it almost only took one fight of
people love
slugger.
him now. Yeah, it's amazing the respect that he gets now, as opposed to even his last one over Tarek. Yeah, exactly. It was great, but even coming off a loss, that proves once again that losses in MMA don't mean as much as they do in boxing.
Is it possible UFC 194 in Dallas will be a bigger show than UFC 200?
I guess it's possible, but they're going to stack that 200 card. They're already thinking about it. There's no coincidence that they announced it a year out, but 194 is a big deal. And by the way, let's not book our travel to Dallas just yet. You know what I mean? I would not put that in stone until it's officially announced. I still kind of feel like the better venue is Las Vegas. So I have to sell a lot less tickets to make the same, if not more money. You can get away with that in Vegas. So, and also Dallas in December isn't the best place to be, by the way.
Last one, any update on the John Jones situation?
The John Jones situation is moving along. As you may have seen, there were some pictures that resurfaced of him at a Boys and Girls Club in Albuquerque not that long ago. I know he was supposed to have a hearing recently, which I don't think happened, but will happen. And if you ask me, do I think we'll see him fight again? I do. I think that he has smartly stayed out of the spotlight. He hasn't talked to anyone, which I think is smart, by the way, until his legal issues are all cleared up. Because, of course, that can be used against him. So clear that up. Get your life in order. Sounds like he is. He's still at the gym. He's still training. I hear he's actually in phenomenal shape. Usually when he's out of the gym and he's back in Ithaca, gets the pot belly, all that stuff. Well, he lives in Albuquerque, so he can be there. He's been helping guys like Arlovsky and some of his other teammates prepare for fights. So I think John is from what I'm hearing is figuring things out and is getting his life back on track. Wouldn't it be special? Wouldn't it be something if all goes well with this this legal issue that he has to conquer first? The return of John Jones at UFC 200 makes all the sense in the world. If you're looking for a big deal, that's a big deal.
I think that's the biggest deal. I think John Jones versus Daniel Cormier is the biggest fight that could be made right now.
Bigger than Cyborg Ronda?
I guess the proof is in the pudding. And
bigger than Conor against Aldo? What are you talking about?
I think Jones Cormier could be bigger than Conor Aldo if you sell it properly.
It's a big deal, but I don't think anyone is a bigger draw than Ronda right now.
Yeah, Ronda, I think, is a guarantee based. She pretty much carried 190 on her own and took it to heights that we did not expect. So, Ronda versus Cyborg may be number one, but I could see this being bigger than Conor Aldo, Jones Cormier.
Yeah, I mean,
if you put commercials of what happened in the first fight and John Jones being stripped.
Yeah,
I mean the first fight was already so well done promotionally. And then you add the intrigue of what happened between the end of the first fight and now, I think it's must see.
Well, to tie what I said at the very beginning of this show into what we're talking about here, we've just finished an incredible stretch for the UFC. 15 shows in 14 weeks, 2 shows that did big business in less than 30 days, and unlike last year where we were talking about, oh no, the departure of GSP, the departure of Anderson potentially, Nick Diaz on the side. I mean, there were all these question marks. Now all of a sudden, the UFC has a lot of toys to play with. It's a really interesting time. If everyone can be healthy and keep it together and no crazy stuff out of the cage, out of the gym, there are some big-time fights. You throw in Fedor in there and, obviously the CM Punk thing, wherever you may stand on that, fine, but that's going to be a big deal. There's a lot of money. There's a lot of big fights to be had in the near future.
That's it. Good to see you all.
Oh,
Happy
welcome
to hear
back.
from you.
Thank you for gracing us with your samurai presence.
You're quite welcome. I know the fans missed me, so I had to come back.
Yes.
But I'm glad to be here.
No Wally Pipp.
I'm here.
Okay. Thank you once again to everyone who tuned in. Thank you to the good people at YouTube for housing it. No problems, right? All good. All good in the YouTube hood. You can't my music, by the way. We are done. Thank you to the guys in the back who allowed me to go a little longer. I stacked the deck this week, but you know what? We got to stack the deck. It's Monday. There's a lot to talk about. There's no big-time fights this weekend, at least not that I think of or know of. I don't think so. Are there? Let's see. I think it's a bit of a break. UFC back. Saskatoon. Less than 2 weeks. Bellator's back. August 28th. And then we get rolling again. Johnson Dodson 2. Early September. Return to Japan. End of September. But for now, we take a breath. We marvel at the last month for the UFC, and we look ahead to next week. I want to thank everyone who tuned in. As I said, I want to thank everyone who stopped by. All your questions and comments, much appreciated as always. Thank you very much to the great Dave Meltzer for his insight. Great to have Tim Kennedy back on the show. Best of luck to him. Great knowledge, great insight provided by George Lockhart. As always, love having him on. Best of luck to Tyron Woodley at UFC 192 and in Straight Out of Compton. What a performance by Rory MacDonald at UFC 189 and on this show. So great to have him back. Good luck to Diego Sanchez in Monterrey, November. All the best to Luke Barnatt in his return to action in December. All the best to Mike Brown. Congrats to him. And all the best to Amir Khan as he transitions into an MMA owner. How about that? Promoter. Amazing. Back next week, same time and place. If you missed anything, check it. YouTube, iTunes, SoundCloud, the good stuff. Peace. I'm out of here.